This girl wasn't born yesterday.
When people taste Dinty Moore beef stew.
America's favorite stew?
Yes, when people taste Dinty Moore.
The real meat and potatoes meal?
That's right. And when they taste Dinty...
With chunks of meat and vegetables and yummy gravy?
Yeah, when people taste Dinty Moore beef stew, they say...
It's phenomenally incomprehensible.
Because they're expensive?
Or not.
Or too.
Motorola cellular phones have never cost less. Here, call it.
Okay.
Never mind. I'll do it for you.
Oh, I don't know.
What's not to know? Buy the stinking dress.
What is your problem?
I don't have a problem. You have a problem. We've been to 7 different stores. We've spent 3/4 of the day looking at dresses, the last 12 of which you couldn't tell apart if you saw them in a lineup.
Miss Poindexter, would you join me for breakfast?
I thought you'd never ask.
My name is Max Mendoza. I'm from Fresno, California, and this is about Wonder Woman meets Baroness Von Gunther. Well, I guess I could say this is one of my favorite episodes, but then I guess all of the episodes are probably one of my favorite episodes. I mean, I've loved this series my entire life, I guess since probably about 8 years old when I first saw it on television. I fell in love with Lynda Carter, and I always loved Baroness because Baroness was actually a Wonder Woman comic book villain. You don't see too many of those in the series. So I guess my time's about up, so that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Handsome. Coming, Baroness, coming.
We're going to let the listeners decide who they think is right.
Are we? I feel viscerally that sensation of joy.
Do you think there's somebody in the closet?
Little Paul, she's touching your face, too.
Lynda, you can touch my face.
Get her in a towel, boys.
ABC never considered it a series.
I seek out a candy.
The Rafter? She doesn't have her bracelet.
Margaret Arman.
They had a hairy-backed stuntman.
Ray, how are you?
I'm doing great, Paul. How are you? We've been talking for a while. And how am I doing? I am itching. I'm itching to go.
You're itching to go. That's different.
I'm itching to get into this episode. I'm taking off the Snuggie I was wearing.
It was a gorgeous Snuggie.
It's a zebra print. Fitting for a middle-aged Italian.
Who doesn't look a day over half age. I mean, a quarter age. Wow. What the hell am I? Can we cut that out? Can we cut it? Just let's cut that line, Murray.
Oh, Murray's here today.
Murray's
okay,
here
today. Murray's in the booth.
So we're done with the pilot episode of Wonder Woman, Ray. Are you happy?
I'm thrilled. That was 5 years of our lives.
Oh, my God.
Focusing on the new original Wonder Woman.
That's right.
And if you don't know, Paul edits all of the episodes together, and I think you do a gorgeous job with it.
Thank you.
As I've told you many, many times.
Well, thank you very much. I
enjoy listening to them.
And of course, as I've told you, and I think I've mentioned on the podcast before, most of the stuff that I edit, we talk for hours, and I whittle it down to about an hour and a half. And one might ask, well, where does all of that other stuff go?
Where does all that other stuff go?
It goes into the trash. Well, most of it is me laughing and saying inane stuff that no one will ever hear because I chuck it.
Bye-bye. Never happened.
And of course, Ray is immaculate in presentation, so I never cut anything out.
I never falter. No mistakes.
No mistakes whatsoever.
No searching for words.
No.
Laser focus, dead on.
And since we're done with the new original Wonder Woman pilot movie, we are moving on to the next episode, Wonder Woman meets Baroness Von Gunther. November 13th, 1975, an ABC spokesman in New York said yesterday that ABC was pleased with Wonder Woman. He added that while no decision has been made on whether to make it a series, 6 additional scripts have been ordered. This is the week after the pilot aired, November 13th, 1975. 6 scripts have been ordered into production. And as you and I have talked about before, ABC looked at these episodes not as a series. They considered the whole World War II era a bunch of specials.
Right.
They considered them pinch hitters. Wherever they needed a draw, they would put Wonder Woman on. It was a very sort of on-off type of schedule. It had no committed schedule, season 1. And that's de facto. We've come to call it that now, but ABC never considered it a series.
Right.
Thankfully, most of the time, the show ended up on Saturday night at 8 o'clock. And, and I loved that. As a little kid, I loved that because, at 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning, I would creep down the stairs, careful not to wake up anybody, so that I could watch the Super Friends. And then I was so excited because later that night, I was going to watch the live-action Wonder Woman.
Yeah, you get to bookend your day.
Exactly.
With Wonder Woman.
And it was usually on after like Lawrence Welk or the Muppet Show or something like that. Well, thank you, friends. And now let's take a look. Good night. Au revoir.
That was a great Kermit impression.
That was my Lawrence Welk impression.
Very good. Very good.
But when it wasn't on, Ray, I was devastated. Like, after Lawrence Welk got over and that starburst didn't happen, I might have even cried. I don't know. But, you could go 2 or 3 Saturdays in a row, and then the next 2 or 3, it would not be on. And you'd be like, oh my God, what happened?
Yeah. And that was probably then one of the reasons they decided to go to CBS, because they could be given a regular series.
Oh, yeah. And we'll get to this when we get to the end of the World War II era, the ABC years. We'll get to it. But it's very much in the public memory that ABC canceled Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. That's not true. They offered Warner Brothers another slate of specials. And we might have had a season 2 that remained in World War II. Meanwhile, CBS over here waving their hand to bring up Kermit again. We'll offer you every Friday night. Hi, well, Kermit the Frog here. Friday night.
That was a great Lawrence Welk.
But yeah, CBS said, hey, we'll give you Friday nights at 8 o'clock, full 22 order.
Cool.
And so Warner Brothers said, to heck with you, ABC, we're going to CBS.
Yep.
Of course, CBS, had some asks, like, can we update it to the present? Can we, put our brand on it? Can we make it that it's our own? And that's, where we got all the changes. That's where we got the update and all that stuff. But again, what a long digression. I just wanted to set the stage for where we are in terms of ABC taking a chance on a bunch of specials. And a lot of people thought, well, why? You've got Bionic Woman. Bionic Woman is a rating success. There's even a newspaper article titled ABC's Embarrassment of Riches. In other words, you already have the Bionic Woman. Why would you want another super-powered woman show?
There's plenty. There's one, so enough.
Right.
We can't divide all our attention on 2.
Yeah, the wheels will come off.
Society will just die. How did Wonder Woman do in the Bionic Woman time slot?
Well, Bob Hope was a big deal in television. He's always been a big deal in television, but the Bob Hope specials were always super ratings grabbers.
Yeah, I remember them. Lynda was on one of them.
That's right.
Yeah, in the 80s.
Well, Wonder Woman meets Baroness Von Gunther kicked Bob Hope's ass.
Wow.
Yeah. Warner Brothers or ABC took out a full-page ad in Variety. Lynda Carter in her Wonder Woman suit. It was one of the black and white poses where she's standing there, hands on hips, with the words "Bob Hope KO'd."
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
We'll post that up on our show notes so you can see that.
Oh, so cool that you have that.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the stage is pretty much set. So let's talk about this Emmy-nominated main title. Did we ever mention that Phil Norman was nominated for an Emmy Award for Best Title Design for Wonder Woman?
I did not even know that the nomination was there.
Wait, in the 15 editions of the pilot movie, we never mentioned it.
No, I think that was the one thing we missed. So we should probably go back and do it all over again.
Okay. Phil Norman was nominated for an Emmy Award for Best Title Design for a TV show.
Did he win?
Well, I hope not. Because we really look like idiots then. No, he did not win. He lost to another Norman, a guy named Norman Sunshine. Norman Sunshine did visual collages for the CBS TV movie Addie and the King of Hearts. But I think Phil was robbed. Sunshine did these sort of like paper mache images that dissolved into live action images. And it's fine, it's okay, but I think it's totally didn't live up to what Phil had done with Wonder Woman. So let's talk about the title for Baroness, which is essentially the same as the pilot movie, but with some stark differences. Now, first, the old black and white World War II footage and the Paul Carr narration is gone. And which is expected because it works for a movie.
Gone.
But it doesn't work so much for a weekly show, although I imagine they could have shortened it maybe or done something. I don't know. This time we have an explosion that kicks off the animation, but instead of black and white war footage of an explosion, we get an animated shooting star that bursts into a gazillion other animated stars, followed by the title card shooting up that just reads Wonder Woman. Now, the new original text from the pilot movie is gone, and finally when Wonder Woman jumps down from the building, she whips out her lasso. Gone is the two baddies shooting at her. Gone is the bullets and bracelets animation and the whacking of the thugs away, the thwacking, the thwopping, as Deborah Winger says. All of that is gone, presumably because it was too violent. I don't know. I mean, that happened on the Super Friends, right? I mean, I'm sure, weren't there? Or was that just...
I'm sure it had to have.
Yeah.
We had to have seen her use her bracelets.
Right. I'm thinking maybe, Cheetah was shooting darts at her on the Super Friends. I don't know.
She was throwing paper airplanes at her.
But that's what we've got, and that's what all ABC episodes will have going forward. But here's the big question, Ray.
What?
And unfortunately, it's a question we don't yet know the answer to. Did these changes really premiere with the broadcast of Baroness? Or did they come later with the ABC reruns of Baroness? We know ABC repeated the pilot, Baroness, and Fausta leading up to Beauty on Parade in the fall of 1976. Friend of the podcast and Wonder Woman guru, our friend Gary Browning, he has watched a Paley Center for Media archive copy of that ABC rerun that aired in the fall of 1976. And Gary confirms for us that the animated starburst, the new title card, and the lasso animation, they're all present. But were those changes made for the original April 21st broadcast? I don't think we'll ever know unless someone has a copy of the original April 21st, 1976 broadcast. We might have talked about this when we were talking about the pilot. When Baroness and Fausta came out on Columbia House Video, it had the same main title.
Right.
Remember how you told me how you hated that Baroness, the explosion pops, and then the music comes in too fast?
Oh, yes.
That's not the way it happens on Columbia House.
Right.
It's the same as Fausta. The explosion, then the music comes in, and then it's the double vocal on both the main title and the end credits. On the DVD, on the Blu-ray, and on streaming, the introduction to Baroness' main title is not the double vocal, and it has the too abrupt music coming in. Once again, I'll put it out there. If you or someone you know has in their possession original broadcast copies, if you can digitize them, send us them, because you'll get full credit. You'll be mentioned and thanked in the podcast for your contribution. If you don't have them digitized, if you could make a copy of the tape and send it to us. But again, the only way to know for sure what a show looked like when it aired is to see it as it aired. But the animated opening, as a kid, her jumping off the animated comic book page into live action, absolutely just enthralled by it. And of course, we've talked about that a number of times.
Especially when she came jumping forward, too. And the animation turned to Lynda. I feel viscerally that sensation of joy that would happen in that moment.
Oh, yeah. Let me ask you this, because this just occurred to me. She never looks like this in the series. Her hair never looks like this. I mean, it's Lynda, but on this day, recording this sequence of her running and jumping at the camera and posing, she never looks quite like this in the show.
Actually.
Uh-oh.
She does.
She do?
She does. The scene in the pilot where she drops off the Nazis at the police station.
You again?
This man is a top Nazi spy. Put him in a cell and throw away the key.
I believe that is the hair from that scene.
Really?
Yeah, because with that scene, I remember her hair is longer than it has been, or looser than it has been throughout the rest of the pilot. It really resembles her hairstyle and the makeup from that scene.
All right, I love that. I'll and I know everyone's now running to look at the pilot to compare them. And of course, we'll get to this when we get to the Return of Wonder Woman, but I don't think she ever quite looks like she looks when she does that pose also of the season 2 animated opening.
I'll have to take a look at it. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
The live action pose that she gives, I would bet you dollars to donuts that was shot during the scene where she lifts up the Russian guy in Volcanoes.
If there is a pattern, then it was probably the United States. Listen, if we can just work together, maybe we can destroy this weapon before it destroys us.
That title card shot was shot during that setup for that episode.
Oh, interesting.
And we know where Lyle Wagner's was shot. That was shot from the end of Pied Piper. They ask him just to smile and hold that pose for, 30 seconds so they can get his title card shot.
Did Lyle have a title card shot?
Yeah, a live action one, yeah.
He did? Why am I...
Ray! Yes!
I'm thinking... I thought Lyle's, they just put his name up while he was driving the car.
No. Uh-oh. This is called the Wonder Woman effect. You're having your own personal Mandela effect here. They use the very same shot with Eve Plum, and they're walking in the little park area.
Uh-huh.
And the little girl runs by, playing the do-do-do-do-do. And they're all like, what is that sound? And then he smiles, and it's the same shot.
Interesting. Pied Piper, as we know, is not one that I often watch. And if I do, it's only to see the spins. So it's been quite a while since I've seen...
I thought your favorite scene in Pied Piper was when she lectures him after she lassos him.
Lectures who, the Pied Piper?
Yeah. Oh, you hate that scene.
I'm sure I do. What does she lecture him on? It's gone. It's out of my memory.
I don't need anybody.
That's not what you write. That's not what you play.
Oh, God.
I don't think it's what you believe.
I think Linda's live-action pose is actually from Mind Stealers from Outer Space.
Really?
I think it's from Mind Stealers when they were filming Mind Stealers Part 1.
Really?
Because her hair is as tight as it is, the wig, in that episode. And it's big on top.
Princess, am I in time to be of service?
As always, your timing is excellent, Andros. I've been expecting you ever since that dramatic weather change.
I was trying to attract your attention. It's a delight to see you again, Princess.
Well, now you and me, those are fighting words because...
We're gonna fight over this.
I'd bet you $1,000 that's from Volcanoes, and you're saying that you think it's from Mind Stealers 1. Okay.
I think it's from Mind Stealers 1.
What's interesting is that these two episodes are back to back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they absolutely could be either or.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the two, because Mind Stealers Part 2, her hair is her own hair, or the wig, or the fall changes.
We're gonna let the listeners decide who they think is right.
Are we?
No. So we've got beautiful Lynda Carter. We've got Lau Wagner in his wonderful salute pose with, the twinkle in the teeth. Now we've got a couple of names that we've never seen before, and this is the introduction of Richard Eastham as General Blankenship, replacing John Randolph. Born in Opelousas, Louisiana, I hope I said that right, Eastham grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, where as a boy he sang soprano in choir. Soprano! Sorry. And when his voice changed to baritone, he started singing with the St. Louis Grand Opera Company. He joined the Army during World War II, where he rose to the rank of Major, like a real-life Steve Trevor Ray.
He didn't need to act at all. He's been there.
After the war, he started working on Broadway, where he eventually became the understudy for Ezio Pinza, who originated the role of Emile in 1948's mega-hit musical South Pacific. Now, Richard Eastham was so good understudying as Emile that the producers gave him the role for the national tour later.
When that clip that I sent you yesterday came up on the Ed Sullivan Show, I'm like, Dickinson Eastham? Who the hell is Dickinson? And I looked at it, I'm like, that's him.
Come enchanted evening, you may see a stranger, you may see a stranger across a crowded room.
And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah. And that it was from 1949. It's amazing that that exists.
Later in film, Eastham starred in such roles as Marilyn Monroe's manager in There's No Business Like Show Business, and Bing Crosby's rival in the custody drama Man on Fire. But TV Western fans will remember him as newspaperman Harris Claiborne, who appeared in and narrated 91 episodes of Tombstone Territory.
Oh, he has a great narrator's voice.
Oh, brilliant!
An actual account from the pages of my newspaper, the Tombstone Epitaph. This is the way it happened, in the town too tough to die. Tombstone Territory.
Eastham would go on to appear in all of our favorite TV shows, from Perry Mason to Kojak. According to IMDb, his last role was on Dallas in 1991.
I was just going to say that. Was it Dallas?
Richard Eastham died in 2005. He was 89 years old. You know, I just saw him the other night on Battle of the Planet of the Apes. And because of this research, I've been watching a ton of Tombstone Territory. It's a half-hour black and white Western. He's really good in it.
Oh, yeah?
It's really great to finally be watching a lot of his stuff. We've got Beatrice Colin as Etta Candy.
Yay.
She was also starring on Happy Days.
Yes.
At around this same time, and she was one of the roller waitresses, right? She was one of...
Yes,
she was
also an ABC show.
Yes, yes.
She won't go out with me because it's Saturday night. I mean, what's that mean?
It's the code.
Oh, yeah, the old code. What code's that?
No girl wants to look unpopular, right? So if you want to date a girl for Saturday night, you gotta ask her out by Thursday, unless, of course, you're going steady, in which case you can ask her out as late as Friday. But you can't ask a girl out for Saturday afternoon and expect her to go out with you unless you just broke up with a girl she hates. And to dare to ask a girl out on Saturday night for Saturday night. Tony Curtis couldn't get a date with Janet Leigh on that short notice. You understand?
That's a dumb code.
Maybe. But it's the only one we've got.
Now, you might think that Beatrice Betsy, to her friends, was a Nepo baby, since her grandfather...
Okay, I was not expecting that.
Since her grandfather was Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright director George S. Kaufman, who won the award twice, first for co-writing the stage play You Can't Take It With You, and then for directing Guys and Dolls. But no, Gramps did not pull any strings for Colin, who, by the way, wasn't allowed to call him grandfather because it made him feel old. She had to call him George. And when she was a little girl, she spotted him outside one day and accidentally called him grandfather. She got so scared, she ran away without hearing his response.
He had to be pretty terrifying.
I mean, come on. Your granddaughter can't call you grandfather. Anyway,
that's showbiz.
Anyway, it wasn't Gramps that helped her get her start in Hollywood. Well, not directly anyway. One story is that Natalie Schaefer, Mrs. Howell from Gilligan...
Oh, Mrs. Howell, yeah.
You're a big Gilligan's Island fan, right?
Oh, huge.
Aw, darling, you're so gallant.
Mrs. Howell from Gilligan's Island had some influence in getting her the role of Marcia on Happy Days. Now, Schaefer had worked with Kaufman in the early days, and they may even have had an affair, Ray. She might have felt, like, hey, I can help the granddaughter of the guy that I am, Anyway, hey, look, a break is a break, though, right? So Colin would go on to appear in lots of 70s and 80s TV, from Night Stalker and All in the Family to Love Boat, Night Court, and The Wonder Years. Now, according to Playbill, she appeared in over 200 television shows, commercials, and films. Wow. A personal favorite commercial of hers was the award-winning Alka-Seltzer commercial, in which she was the first to sing Plop Plop Fizz Fizz while wearing a huge pink feather boa.
Sounds about right.
Now, according to IMDb, her last appearance was in Nickelodeon's The Secret World of Alex Mack in 1997. Now, there is a bittersweet ending to Beatrice's story. When she was a student at Temple University in Philadelphia, she was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. The cure was massive radiation she underwent. But years later, she developed lung cancer, and they thought this was a connection. But the lung cancer spread to her brain, and it was terminal. Now, near the end of her life, Beatrice's teenage son, she married actor Patrick Cronin, and they had two boys, James and Charlie. And James was following in his mother's footsteps in being an actor, and he was cast in a high school play, which just happened to be one of George Kaufman's acclaimed works, The Man Who Came to Dinner. And James wanted to give up the play and be with his mother during her last days. But Colin told him, if you really want to remember me, don't use my death as an excuse for screwing up. You will honor me with a good life.
Oh.
What a heartbreaking story, but
it's
a little bit uplifting, because to the end she was, Patrick Cronin says, she was cracking jokes to the very end of her life, and
it's beautiful.
And this is great. It's funny, these characters that you watch all your life, Richard and Beatrice. You learn about these things, and you don't you never sort of look at them the same way again. In their roles. So,
yeah, I'm so glad you shared that.
Yeah. And, she had a lot of scenes with Lynda as Diana Prince, but she seldom had, she had very few scenes with Lynda as Wonder Woman. The one of the best ones is the from Beauty on Parade.
Yes.
Where she comes in and she's trying to deliver the message to Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman, she puts her hand on her shoulder for most of that short, brief conversation, but it's wonderful.
Wonder Woman, am I glad to see you? I have to find Diana Prince to tell her what's happened, but she isn't here.
What's happened?
Oh, it's terrible.
I love that display of assurance. Everything's going to be okay.
Right. And also, I'm glad that Diana had a friend.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
In the ABC episodes, because anytime a friend of Diana's appeared in CBS, it was like, and all of a sudden, here's this friend I'm going to visit for skateboard whiz.
You remember her? She worked in personnel
with a daughter,
or her friends, in Arizona that she's going to go, fishing with.
And it's like, I have no emotional connection to this character whatsoever.
Yeah.
If it was Bobby or Eve,
exactly.
It might make a little more sense.
And let me ask you, why does she need to go to this little town in Southern California for a vacation?
Yes, she could go home.
She has a whole island.
And the plane's gone. She no longer had transportation.
She didn't have a way to get there, yeah.
Right. So it's just best if we forget about it.
It's just best, yeah.
A complete blank.
So no friends, no female friends, no siblings to use her mascara.
Drusilla?
I imagine that Stanley Ralph Ross, I imagine that he wrote some notes about the other characters that would be in this TV show. He wrote the pilot so close to the original comics. When did Etta Candy make her first appearance in the comics?
Etta is in Sensation number 2. That is her first appearance.
So,
Wonder Woman drives a truck up to the Holiday College for Women, and she stands at the registrar's desk and says, "I'm looking for my friend Etta Candy." And the registrar says, "Etta is rehearsing with the band in music hall. And if that's one of the new band costumes you're wearing, it's no wonder the dean said you must take them off." Talking about Wonder Woman's costume. She enters the hall. One of the girls says, "That's a ducky costume, my pet, but the dean won't let you wear it." She insists on more above the waist. Wonder Woman says, "I am not here to join the band. I seek Etta Candy." And that person says, "This is Etta Candy."
Oh my God.
"Oh, I'd never have known you, Etta." Or, "That is my friend Diana Prince. The nurse said you were a thin girl when she knew you in the hospital." "I was thin, all right, when I went to the hospital. But after they took out my appendix, I could eat anything, so I did." "Nurse Diana was swell to me. I'd do anything for her except diet." Wow. That's Etta's first appearance. Sensation number 2.
I'd do anything except diet. That is absolutely fantastic.
Times were different.
I love the fact that, again, we stay true to all of these Golden Age characters. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So let's continue with our guest cast. Christine Belford is our guest star in this episode. She was Ricky Schroeder's mom in Silver Spoons.
Was she?
She had blonde hair.
Mom! Richard, how is my little man?
When I read that you had left military school to live with your father, I shrieked. And people do not shriek in Switzerland. So, who does your father's decorating? Toys R Us?
I think she may have been a blonde when she guest starred on Murder, She Wrote.
There you go.
I think so.
She would come to visit every so often, and her and Aaron Gray, which was Ricky's dad's secretary,
right?
They would sort of wow.
Okay.
She was all over the place as a guest star.
Yeah.
I love her so much. She also played Arnie's mom in Christine, the Stephen King movie Christine.
I never saw it.
She also, for a brief time when she was a teenager, she actually lived in the famous Amityville horror house.
Oh.
Yeah. And you know what? I think she was also a blonde when she played Ian Ziering's mom in 90210. And I bring that up because I think that's where she met her husband, another great character actor, Nicholas Pryor. And I bring Nicholas Pryor up because he tries to kill Lynda Carter in the fantastic TV movie The Last Song.
It's the last song I'm ever gonna hear.
It's a great thriller movie with Lynda Carter and Ronnie Cox, but it is a harrowing scene where he has Lynda Carter on the floor of her kitchen. She's bound, and he's trying to kill her with poisonous gas, with a gas mask over her face, and she's struggling and screaming. It is hard to watch. But it is a great thriller TV movie, and so definitely check it out. But yeah, Nicholas Pryor, what is it? Kevin Bacon, 6 Degrees of Separation. But anyway, Christina Belford, she popped up all over the place. Voice work too.
Great voice for it.
If you want to be loved online, listen up. Don't type in all capitals. They'll murder you for that. Don't ask what LOL means. It stands for laughing out loud. And while we're at it, IMHO is, in my humble opinion, ROTFL is rolling on the floor laughing, and RTFM is read the freaking manual.
I always loved, she has a smarmy persona. She's very smarmy. The way she smiles, she's dripping with villainy.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oozing.
I love, yes.
Oozing out of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Go all out. Play the caricature. Play the cartoon, because that's what this is. She and Bradford Dillman, Arthur Deal the third. They play it so... We'll get to it when they have it was Wonder Woman. He's like, Wonder Woman? It's just, you expect a third Wonder Woman somewhere to happen.
And it doesn't.
And it's like, it would have been so good. And I believe it was Wonder Woman. and you want
Wonder Woman.
But they play it with such relish.
If it was directed by the pilot director, Leonard Horn, right? They probably would have added it in.
Like the maid walking by, Wonder Woman. Bradford Dillman, again, he gets a special appearance credit. He was like a 70s staple. You know, he'd pop up on everything. If you watched a show in the 70s, he was probably on it. You could not spit at a TV show and not hit Bradford Dillman as a guest star. But he also crossed over onto the big screen. So he would do TV and he would do movies. Seek out the movie Compulsion with Dean Stockwell. They both play like psychopaths. It's really good. 1959, 1960, I think.
I haven't been able to find you for 3 days.
I've been doing exactly what we said, watching the cops run around in circles. Now look, we agreed to explore all the possibilities of human experience, didn't we? Unemotionally detached. Don't tell me you haven't got the nerve. You want me to order you to, Jed?
His memoir is called, what is it now? Aren't You Somebody? Or Are You Somebody? My Life as an Actor, something like that. Anyway, the comedy is significantly slashed in this episode.
Quite a different tone.
Camp will always, yeah, exactly, quite a difference. Camp will always be intentionally part of season 1, but nowhere near to the degree of humor as the pilot.
Yeah.
It'll just be slashed more than half.
Yeah. Lyle is stiffer in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Eastham comes in and he's very stiff.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, the comedy is given to Beatrice Colin, Etta.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Anything funny is given to her. And there's not much.
You get a few good lines from our next guest star, Edmund Gilbert. He plays the warden. Now, Gilbert made the rounds on TV in the 60s and the 70s and 80s, from Mission Impossible and $6 Million Man to Three's Company and the A-Team. But fans of the old Nancy Drew Hardy Boys Mysteries TV show will remember him as the Hardy Boys' dad, Fenton Hardy.
Mr. Hardy, I want to thank you and your 2 boys.
Well, let us know the next time the Navy intelligence needs help with a case, and I'll see if the boys are available.
And in the 80s, he got into animation, and his voice can be heard in Transformers and Centurions, G.I. Joe, Tailspin, Captain Planet, a ton. But yeah, if you watch a lot of Nancy Drew Hardy Boys, he's the dad. But he does get some funny lines, again.
Yes, he does. That's true.
Not humor, but intentional camp, where you bring this up, Ray, where he says, I wish he had more kids to play with so he isn't always reading all the time. Ed Griffith, he's Hanson.
Hanson. Coming, Baroness, coming.
Ed Griffith had TV roles from the 60s through the 80s in shows like Route 66 and Gidget to Knots Landing and Highway to Heaven. His feature film credits include the Kentucky Fried Movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that. And Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, who was he in that?
I have no idea.
What did he do?
I don't know. I don't know. Go find out. I don't know.
You're the one telling me what he's doing.
Go find out. But that's Ed Griffith.
Large Marge. That's impossible.
And then, of course, Kristen Juttner.
Tommy.
Lots of series television when he was this age.
I wonder if they gave him this role because Bionic Woman being off the air for a few weeks.
Yeah, you can see him a handful of times in The Bionic Woman as one of her students.
I wanted to see a dunk for apples.
I'm sorry I missed it.
Well, I saved one for you anyways.
Oh, an apple for the teacher.
Corny, huh?
No, I think it's terrific.
Juttner's work as a child actor includes Ironside. He was on Bewitched, Ray.
Yes.
Juttner was also in Emergency and SWAT. Later, he appeared in feature films like Return from Witch Mountain and The Swarm. I love The Swarm. Do you remember The Swarm?
I never saw The Swarm, no.
He apparently stopped acting in the 80s, and eventually he got into construction. Our executive producer, of course, is Douglas S. Kramer. He was the producer of the pilot movie, and now that it's a potential series, he's the executive producer. Taking his place as producer is Wilford Lloyd Bomas. Bomas's title on the pilot, if you remember, he was associate to the producer. But now that he's Kramer's top man running the show, Bomas will stay with Wonder Woman well into season 2 on CBS before leaving to develop The Love Boat into a ratings hit for ABC.
Huh. Do we know when he left? Did he leave after I Do, I Do?
I think Pied Piper is his last episode. He'll actually get promoted to executive producer on CBS. He'll executive produce with Doug Kramer until Pied Piper. And then, of course, it'll be the big shakeup with Bruce Lansbury joining to save the show from cancellation, starting with Volcanoes.
Okay, when all the changes happen.
Wonder Woman's creator, William Moulton Marston, gets the same credit here that he got on the pilot movie. It's the same credit he'll have throughout the whole series, based on characters created by Charles Moulton. Now, Charles Moulton was Marston's pen name when he wrote Wonder Woman in the 1940s. It was a pseudonym that combined the middle names of both himself and Max Charles Gaines, publisher of All American Publications, where Wonder Woman was published. DC didn't start using Marston's real name in print, I think, until around the George Perez reboot. Was it?
That's the first place I remember seeing it, yes.
And that was in the late 80s. But in the 70s, around this time, Charles Moulton was still popularized as the creator of Wonder Woman, and certainly still referred to as the writer of Wonder Woman back in the day. Another guy that will get the same credit here and for the remainder of the show is Stanley Ralph Ross. Now, you'll remember that Ross was responsible for bringing the comic book Wonder Woman to the screen. His mark on this series is indelible as he recreated her comic book origin, even going as far as to setting the story during World War II, and often lifting whole scenes right off the page. Now, even though the show will eventually get updated to the 70s, Ross will continue to receive a very much deserved credit on every single episode, which is developed
for television by.
Exactly. It's what I call a paycheck credit, because Ross will never return to the series, which I think is kind of strange, especially for the first season, Ray. He would have been fantastic as a writer, writing episodes for the first season.
Yeah, I wonder what he moved on to.
And he did a lot of that. He was the epitome of the freelance writer for television. I don't know why maybe he was never asked back.
That could be.
But it's sad because I imagine getting more stories from Stanley Ralph Ross, who wrote the pilot.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Come on.
Well, it seems they went in a different direction anyway after the pilot. So,
and obviously that's going to be our whole thing is tracking that change.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us, of course, to the second person to ever write for the Wonder Woman TV show,
Margaret Arman.
Margaret Arman. I love that it was a woman, and in particular, I love that it was Margaret Arman. Arman got her start in TV westerns because in the 50s and the 60s, that's all that was mostly being made. She was a short story writer who wrote for publications like Cosmopolitan and Ladies' Home Journal. But after starting a family and moving to Los Angeles, she wanted to try her hand at the new craze of the nation, which was television.
There were only 2 women television writers in the Western field. In fact, there were other women writers, but there were only 2, Kathy Height and Patricia Fielder, who were really making a living at television writing. There was a great deal of discrimination against women. Westerns, are such a hard-hitting type of thing, and I went into the Lawman producer, and he liked the story, which I presented to him, and he gave me the assignment and said, please don't put lace pants on my writers. And since the story was going to star the beautiful saloon keeper Lily, he called me in and he said, Margaret, this is a sort of horror story, but Lily, is hard-boiled. Don't have her faint or anything. He said, there are rooms upstairs in that saloon. And I said, well, Coles, I know there are rooms upstairs, but I didn't think you did.
Star Trek was particularly difficult for women to get into, as Gene Roddenberry didn't hire female writers except for his secretary, Dorothy Fontana, D.C. Fontana. Arman said that Gene became receptive to women after Fontana wrote a really good script. Arman would go on to write 5 episodes of Star Trek in the 60s and 70s, 3 for the original series and 2 for the animated series. From there, she wrote for all the hot TV shows in the 70s, Mod Squad, Ironside. There's your Ironside you mentioned earlier. Where's Who was that Ironside?
Who didn't Ironside?
Ironside, $6 Million Man, Bionic Woman, Land of the Lost, Can and Beretta, Barnaby Jones, Jason of Star Command, Fantasy Island, and Flamingo Road. Arman always wanted to write a novel, and in 1984, The Hanging of Father Miguel was published. She served on the Board of Governors for the Television Academy and on the Board of Directors for the Writers Guild America West. The LA Times called her, quote, one of the first successful female TV writers, end quote, when she died of heart failure in 2003 at the age of 82. Pioneer writer in television. You said that these first 3 episodes are the only adapted from the comic series.
Yes.
Fausta, Baroness, and then the pilot.
Yes, and this one was adapted from Wonder Woman #1, Summer 1942, written by William Moulton Marston, art by Harry G. Peter, called Wonder Woman versus the Prison Spy Ring. That is the first appearance of Baroness Von Gunther in the comics.
Yeah, and I love how, so much like the pilot that Stanley Ralph Ross did, I love that Margaret Arman sticks so closely to that comic book story.
Mm-hmm.
The warden and his son, with her conspirators and her slaves, the secret tunnel.
Yeah, the secret tunnel under her prison
Yeah, she's
cell.
got a trap door in her prison cell, right?
Yeah, she has her slaves down there. Tommy wears, is he called Tommy? I think he's
Freddie in the comic book.
Freddie wears a cowboy outfit.
Right.
Instead of a detective outfit, and he's always lassoing his sister, whose name is Mabel, but he calls Mahita Bell. I believe that sounds like a cow's
But I
name
love the fact
to
that
me. So I'm wondering if there was a Mahita Bell cow in the 40s.
the connective in to the lasso is that he's a little cowboy, and she, when they go to visit the Baroness in the comic book, she has to leave her bag in a sort of a holding room, and in the bag,
right, and
is her costume and lasso, because before, she didn't know she was going to interrogate the Baroness. She was going to take a trip, right? She was packing for a trip.
Right. She was going on a trip, and Steve walked right into her apartment.
I know!
And is like, hey, we got to go. And she's like, what are you doing? Diana Prince of the comics had a little sass to her.
I love it. And she's like, okay. And he's like, I'll drive you to the train station, he promises her.
Yeah.
Just go with me to interrogate Baroness Von Gunther, and I'll drive you to the train station.
Yeah, so she leaves her bag in the warden's office at the warden's request. Right. Freddie goes in. He's playing with his lasso. He lassos her bag. It falls to the floor. Her lasso falls out. Freddie takes her lasso.
I love that so much. I love it. Again, as long as you hit the beats, hit the plot points, you can change things around. And I thought this is a wonderful adaptation of that comic book story. It really works.
Yeah. The only thing they really didn't pick up on, I mean, Baroness is Wonder Woman's first villain that she really reformed.
Right.
And we really don't get that outside of Diana Prince's lecture to her at the end, or Wonder Woman's lecture at the end about freedom and, is it about freedom and democracy?
Yeah.
She redeems Fausta, and Fausta starts working for the government as a double agent after that. But with this Baroness, she's just, you're going back to prison.
Yeah. And she put her in prison first, initially, in the comic book. She put her in prison, right?
In the comic, yes. Yes.
Whereas Steve put her in prison.
Right. Yes. I hope you did the finger point with that.
I can't think of that line without thinking of you doing that line. No, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Barry Crane is the director. Now, if you are a connoisseur of 70s television, Barry Crane is a very familiar name in the directing field. Kind of a tragic story to Barry Crane. He was murdered.
Oh, my God.
And they never found his killer.
Oh.
Until 2021.
Wow.
Yeah.
When was he murdered?
He was murdered. Crane was murdered. I'm reading now from Wikipedia. Crane was murdered on July 5th, 1985, a homicide that went unsolved for 34 years.
Wow.
That week, he was playing daily in the annual Pasadena Regional Knockout Teams Tournament. He was a great card player. But the integrated automated fingerprint identification system led to a suspect in Crane's murder being taken into custody May 9th, 2019. based on fingerprint and DNA evidence linking him to the crime. The subject confessed to murdering Crane during an interview with the LAPD detectives on March 8th, 2019.
Wow.
Jerry Hyatt pled guilty on October 7th, 2021 to voluntary manslaughter. He was sentenced to 12 years in state prison. Tragic.
Wow.
But, there's finally some justice for Barry Crane. But Barry Crane directed, drama, TV, sci-fi television, Bionic Woman, $6 Million Man, Wonder Woman. He was all over the place. Of course, music for this Wonder Woman Meets the Baroness Von Gunther. Ray, you made a comment where you are able to easily identify the intro to the Laverne and Shirley as we zoom in on their apartment window.
Yep, it's there. I tried looking for the episode. I cannot find which episode it is, but I know it is in the first season.
So let's talk about the music. Now, I always felt that this episode had no new music. Every cue was lifted from the pilot and reassigned to various scenes in Baroness because so much of the music in Baroness is identifiable in the pilot. So what I did was a deep dive and I listened to these things back to back, and
I'm glad you did. Because I knew there was new music.
Well, yeah, you were very adamant. You said that it's all new music. And you gave two great examples. You said, for example, the two spins.
Yes.
But you also think that there were some cues that might be new recordings of old cues that were used in the pilot.
Yes.
You gave an example to me of when Wonder Woman's running on the highway, we see her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, that music, that's when the planes are in the air, when Steve's having the dogfight. Mm-hmm. So what I do is, after comparing music in both, I have to say that you were right. And I was right. We were both right. Isn't that nice and vanilla? So let me break it down. Break it down. There is new music in Baroness,
yes,
including the spin cues.
Yes.
And there is old music from the pilot also in Baroness. Now, whether it's number one, new recordings of old cues, as you believe,
yes,
or number two, old cues re-edited to fit the Baroness scenes, or three, alternate takes of old cues, or four, a combination of all those three. Now, I will concede to you, to my ear, I hear music that could fit into all three of those categories. There's also the matter of Charles Fox's hand injury that led to Artie Kane taking over the music chores for the show, which we'll talk about in our Fausta review. But Fox's injury may have impacted the music on Baroness. So that's...
What was two?
Hello, this is Gus Gorman Jr. from Connecticut, and the Baroness episode, one of my favorite moments is the scene where Steve and Diana visit the prison to talk to the Baroness, and the Baroness... I gotta watch that episode again. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I know the Baroness has some comment about what she thinks of Diana and how plain and unremarkable and ordinary Diana looks. And it was a pretty funny line.
Yeoman Prince is very hardworking and totally loyal.
Wonder Woman will continue in a moment.
Wonder Woman, Wednesday.
Hey, this is Stan the Man from The Real Guys. You may not know me, but I'll bet you know Wonder Woman, and that's what the new podcast is about. I'm going to be talking to Wonder Woman cosplayers all across the country, hopefully internationally, about the character that inspires them, Wonder Woman, specifically as portrayed by the fantastic Lynda Carter. We're going to break down each episode starting at the top. Now, am I a professional podcaster? No. Am I a journalist who understands classic 70s TV? No. But can I give you the highest quality, most in-depth and detailed analysis of every episode? Also, no. However, I will promise you terrific and warm conversation by genuine fans who love the classic Wonder Woman TV show, who admire and respect what Wonder Woman stands for, and who truly love the great Lynda Carter for giving us an iconic and lasting personification of everything this character stands for. So give us a listen. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope you'll join us every month for Wonder Woman Wednesdays.
our first shot is the War Department. Again, we talked about this. The intro music is the same used in Laverne and Shirley as we zoom in on the thing. And I love that you wrote that, hey, you're like, I remember as a kid yelling out, hey, that was on Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it's the same music as we're zooming in on Laverne and Shirley's basement apartment in one of the early episodes of Laverne and Shirley. I did a brief scan through some of those earlier episodes, not the entire first season. I couldn't find it, but I know it is there. And these extras that are walking in front of the War Department, you will see them in the crowd scene at the War Bond rally in Fausta.
Which something that we should address. It's going to pop up at some point. Fausta and Baroness were filmed back to back. There's a note later on where you say how they feel the same or the lighting is the same in a lot of scenes. That's why they were...
Especially the later office scene with Etta and General Blankenship and Diana Prince. It's almost the same lighting as in Fausta when they're having nearly the same scene.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they probably film them, if not back to back, they probably film them simultaneously.
Yeah, that's what I would assume.
Very economic. Just shoot it all together.
Did Barry Crane direct both?
He did.
Okay.
I will say that they do have new sets for the interiors. It's different from the pilot. Oscar's office. Steve's office is different. And this is going to change from these two episodes to Beauty.
They redress Diana's office.
Yeah, her desk now is moved it around.
Forward facing instead of side facing.
This is the first time that we do see the plaque. In the pilot, it was never even mentioned that he worked at the War Department. It was that marble building. It was called the War Department during World War II until it was changed. Now it's called the Department of Defense. In this scene, we've got General Blankenship. Here is Richard
Dickinson Eastham.
In Baroness and Fausta, he's got much darker hair.
Yes.
We're going to lose the hair color in Beauty on Parade. He's going to be...
Yes.
And it makes sense just visually. Mm-hmm. It looks much better having a white-haired general with the dark hair Steve Trevor.
Right. And right away, his demeanor is so different from... John Randolph's, more gregarious. I want to say fun-loving, so I'm going to say he seemed to be more fun. General Richard Eastham's General Blankenship is very down to business, very professional, running a very tight ship here.
Is something wrong, General Blankenship?
Something could be very wrong, and frankly, I'm worried. Steve may be in danger and not even know it.
Danger? I don't understand.
The FBI has proof that the top Nazi spy ring, the Abwehr, is definitely active again in Washington.
But I thought that their activity had stopped since Steve captured their leader, the Baroness Von Gunther, and put her in prison.
That's why I'm worried. The FBI is going to fill me in later. But if those people have reorganized, then Steve could be in great danger. Tell Steve I want to see him the minute he gets back.
Yes, sir. I'll get word to him right now.
And I do not believe his General Blankenship would call Diana Prince dumber than a fat lapdog after dinner.
Nope.
I do not believe that is even going through his mind ever, and I don't believe that he would ever have that more chummy relationship with Steve.
I totally agree. He would not be laughing and about and then bordering on sort of innuendo, adult innuendo jokes. You would never. This is not that Blankenship.
Right. This is a war is going on, and we have things to do.
Right. The only time you ever see this guy sort of smile and laugh is it's still within the confines of business.
Right.
Right?
Right.
When Wonder Woman goes to Hollywood or when he gives permission, yeah, you can be in the movie. It's a fine picture. Yeah, he's smiling, but it's within it's not cavalier. It's not thrown away.
Mm-hmm.
It's not who he is.
Mm-hmm. And the whole atmosphere of the War Department is different. The War Department felt very busy and alive during the pilot. A lot of action, a lot of people going here and there through these very large halls. And here it seems to just be a little more concentrated, less fat to the hustle and bustle of the War Department.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do see a busy hallway, but the hallways are much smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So Blankenship exits. Diana, now concerned. We have that beautiful dun dun dun. She takes off her glasses, which, by the way, this shot is not from Baroness. It's actually from Fausta, right?
It is. That is correct.
And it's just inserted here because it fits nicely, and it does fit nicely. They knew that they were going to use this shot, that it could fit easily into both episodes.
Yes.
And it's what I usually refer to the economy of filmmaking, where, you know, ISIS did it a lot. Shazam did it. There were 3 or 4 shots of Andrea Thomas pulling out her amulet and saying, "Almighty ISIS." And that was used over and over and over again. It could be used over and over and over again. So when we see this shot in Baroness and then we see it again in Fausta, they are setting up canned, if you will, quote unquote, canned shots that can be used throughout the whole series.
And this one feels canned.
It does. It does.
It really does, yeah.
But what we'll find out, you know, with Beauty and everything going forward, is that they actually don't do it. They abandon that whole idea. And they only use one canned spin later on from Judgment, right? They use it again in...
yes, in Wonder Woman in Hollywood.
Yeah, which I'm delighted, because I think they understood that each spin really had to be done, had to be unique to the story.
Yeah.
So, you know, Gargantua, she's in a lab. $2 bill, she's on a precipice. She's, you know, they had to really, you couldn't really do canned spins for Wonder Woman. It just wasn't possible. Diana gets up from the desk, goes to the door, locks it, and then she proceeds to go into this beautiful spin. Again, it's another dissolve into Wonder Woman. Upon completion, she checks to make sure she's got her magic belt, yes, her shiny tiara, yes, and her magic bracelets. Oh. Oh! She doesn't have her bracelets!
Which begs now the question, where are her bracelets? Does she have to go home to get them? Are they parked in the invisible plane somewhere? Can she manifest them somehow with Amazonian magic to get them?
One of my notes is, can we forgive this? And the reason I asked this is because all they did was a pilot movie. There was only one spin in that pilot movie. This is the first official second spin. Everything's new for them. And they forget the bracelets. They will never do it again. Can we forgive them for forgetting the bracelets for the second official spin of this mythos?
Yes, I will forgive them. I will forgive that Diana's concentration was not strong enough during this time to quite manifest the bracelets yet.
She was worried about Steve.
The spin is still new to her. She's still working out the kinks here.
Right.
I forgive it. It's just a weird novelty of this first spin. What I can't forgive
Oh no, what can't you forgive?
that we are considering this the first episode after the pilot.
Such information is utter rubbish.
It keeps going through my head that we should be talking about Fausta.
Right. And that was the intention.
Yeah.
Fausta was announced in the newspapers first that it was going into production.
Yeah.
So it was clearly the intention was that Fausta was going to air first. The first mention of Baroness is a week before it airs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If it gives you a little bit of comfort, Ray, they intended Fausta to be first. But you make a good point in your notes later on.
What do I
You say that it probably made sense to put Baroness first because there's a young boy character.
Right.
It's more kid-friendly, you said?
Yeah, they're definitely moving toward a more kid-friendly portrayal of the characters and of the show itself. So maybe they decided, well, we also talked about it could be Charles Fox's injury, hand injury, that maybe he didn't finish scoring, or they needed to get Artie Kane to score. That may have been a delay. But I'm really curious what the network's thinking was. And just in thinking of that, they could have been like, well, there's a little boy, and we want little boys to be watching this show. So let's put the one with the little boy in first.
Do you think there's somebody in the closet?
To grab her costume when she opens the door?
It doesn't look like she's hanging them up. She looks like she's just giving him to somebody.
Yes, she is. There is somebody, because it's clear. She only opens, Lynda, go do the spin again. Touch your belt, touch your head, touch your tiara. Make sure it's all there. You've forgotten the bracelets.
Touch your bracelets.
Then walk over to the closet, hand it to the assistant director, and then just open the door and walk out the door. And she's like, all right, got it. And I think that's what happened. Yes, she clearly hands it to somebody. I love that we can see the stitching and how when she turns around. I love that we can see how the corset is and the shorts are kind of clipped together there. I love being able to see these little details to the costume, how we can see her tiara a little bit underneath the wig in the back.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's very fun.
I'm reminded again of Jeannie Epper's interview with the Archive of Television, and you mentioned clips, and I remember Jeannie saying how, Lynda got the costumes that had the clips in the stitching, and she got costumes with like pullovers and stuff like that, and stuff that you just quickly put on.
Not as fitted.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. Now, is she wearing a different costume? Is it different here in this first spin?
No, it's not. What I mean, Lynda is in a new Wonder Woman costume as opposed to the pilot. This is clearly a new costume. It's higher up on her bust. The shorts are longer. They no longer have that higher cut that the pilot shorts had. The bustier is higher. Her cleavage is more, her breasts are more separated. Whereas in the pilot, they were pushed together and she had a lot of cleavage and a little more movement in the bust area. This one, they are firmly held in place and secure under the wings of the eagle. It's a new belt. It's a new tiara, thicker. The star, it's not centered on the tiara. It's higher up now. Whereas the other tiara there were a couple tiaras in the pilot. They were smaller and the star was more centered. I'm thinking they went to a larger tiara because they really enlarged her hair with this wig as well.
Well, we know Lynda's saying that for the pilot, they put curlers in the oven and it really damaged her hair.
Right.
So from this episode on, they use wigs.
Yeah.
Or extensions or a combination of both. And you can clearly, like you said, you can see it's clearly the bounce in this hair is just wonderful.
Yeah.
And this wig.
And her waist, it seems like there's more to the shorts of the costume. It goes down lower. It seems to rise up a little higher. The cut is lower on the leg. The boots are, I think we've gone to the more plasticky looking, vinyl looking boots. Or higher boots, I'm sorry. This spin in Fausta feels like a build to dramatic action. Like when she exits the door, when she closes the door in Fausta, it's like reaching this crescendo of now she's going to push through the next door. In Baroness, it doesn't have that same drive to it. It feels like more of a call to action in Fausta, and here it just feels like I need to spin and be on my way. Because even when she turns her head, I hear, and watching this, it's more just like a head turn, and I'm out. Goodbye.
We cut to the Department of Justice Federal Penitentiary where Baroness Von Gunther enjoys Ray some status.
This inactivity is maddening.
You should receive word soon, Baroness Von Gunther. Another walk around the compound.
She's differently dressed than any other prisoner in this compound.
Yeah. All the other prisoners are wearing their blue prison outfits, and the Baroness is walking around with Hansen in her black prison dress.
Yeah, what the hell's going on there? She's a model prisoner.
Yes. The model prisoner.
I can't believe that she's a dangerous enemy alien.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? Why not? She's in prison!
Yeah, the warden's not very intelligent.
Not at all.
I think the warden would do very well working in today's Department of Justice. Just kind of ignoring all the major things going on around him.
Oh, I love saucy Ray Caspio. Baroness, she asks of Hansen, what time it is. He says it's 1400 hours. Cut to Steve out in the field, and it is 1400 hours. She knows something important is going to happen at that time. Ray, you say this is the first time we see Steve interacting with the troops.
Yep.
The first of 2 times. The other is in Judgment.
Judgment from Outer Space, Part 1.
Yeah.
When Andros arrives in the field.
Now, before we get into any of this, is this the same costume she's wearing here that we just saw her spin into?
We've either got the same costume just shot at a different angle, and maybe Lynda lost a little bit of weight between when the spin was filmed and when the outdoor shot was filmed, or we have an entirely different costume specifically made for her to be able to move around in better.
Will we see it again, or that remains to be seen?
We see it again in Fausta. Yeah, I think we see it again in Fausta. All of these original costumes are used through the feminine mystique. I think by Gargantua, we have another new costume because Lynda is much thinner by that point.
The truck's due here at 1600 hours. Our objective is to capture it. Now remember, the assumption is we're in enemy territory. So when the truck stops, move in fast. Nobody fires unless absolutely necessary. Any questions?
So Steve is out with the troops on a training maneuver, and their objective is to intercept an enemy truck. Now the truck comes along, and next we see a soldier hiding in the bushes, pushing down on an old-timey blasting cap detonator, which sets off an explosion above the truck, causing a rock slide. Now, the rocks hit the truck, causing it to swerve onto a cliff, and its front end is dangling over the edge. Now, this obviously wasn't part of the plan, and the driver is unconscious for some reason, so Steve and his troop rush to save him. Steve pulls the driver out and then tries to save the truck.
You men, shore up those front wheels. I'm gonna try and save this truck.
He has his guys shore up the front tires with rocks, and he gets behind the wheel, and he puts it into reverse. But the front axle, or the dead axle, I don't know trucks, snaps, and the truck lurches forward. And Wonder Woman, who's been watching all this, leaps into action, lassoing Steve as he tries to escape the cab, pulls him to safety as the truck rolls off the cliff and explodes.
What went wrong, Major?
I don't know precisely, but I just can't believe it was an accident.
You say that the golden lasso starts to change to industrial rope and back again. This will stick around for a while.
Yes, Steve is rescued by the industrial rope, and then he is in the delicate golden lasso.
As we talked about, though, it gives her some heft. It gives her some weight to use it as a lasso that she does not have later on in the CBS years.
Yeah.
And the lack of music between the truck explosion and Wonder Woman jumping into action feels like dead air.
It does.
I don't know. I mean, because there is actual still sound effects, it's not so dead to me, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it just really stood out to me on the viewing. Oh, there's nothing supporting this, and that seems a little odd.
What I found really weird about this, again, I didn't notice it as a kid, but I noticed it as I grew up. There's a weird optical visual effect on the flames of the burning truck. Like from a match that's superimposed right in the middle of the actual burning truck. I just thought that was just weird. I'm like, why? I didn't notice it as a kid. Do you like the little when the truck explodes, the second explosion? He does a little sort of like, I'm going to protect you from the explosion.
And she flinches. Yeah.
We cut to a big zoom in on General Blankenship's office.
But I was ordered to use that truck as the object of our training maneuver. How could it possibly be carrying weapons?
Not just weapons. A top secret shipment. New rapid-fire rifles for our troops overseas. They were supposed to be on their way to the arsenal at Fort Myer for dispersal.
The wrong truck was assigned to me deliberately. And I believe somebody tampered with that axle pin while it was being loaded. Somebody who knew what was in that truck and where it was going.
In other words, sabotage.
Steve doesn't know what the hell's going on. Why did the truck explode? Oh, it exploded because there was tons of weapons on it that should not have been. And here we find out that Steve himself has been implicated as a spy.
Me? A spy? Oh, somebody's got to be kidding.
It's hardly a kidding matter, Steve. Discrediting a famous war hero like you, could deal a serious blow to the morale of the entire country.
But what proof do they have to support such an accusation?
Enough for the Senate to call a secret hearing. Arthur Deal III is heading the committee to investigate you.
The Arthur Deal, the big steel magnate?
He was handpicked by the president because of his reputation as a patriot.
Your note, Ray. You say that what's of interest is how Arthur Deal is introduced.
Yeah, Arthur Deal is introduced as just some sort of, well, of course, his name is Arthur Deal III. He is a big steel magnate. He is driving the economy. He's supporting the war effort. And of course, he would be more patriotic than the famous, respected, truly patriotic military officer based on just his status in society. Because of his show patriotism and his connections, we just accept that Arthur Deal III would have authority. I'm just finding that interesting as how that has always been part of our culture.
Mm-hmm.
That money and status automatically gives authority. But the person actually in the trenches doing the work, saving the country, is the first one to be thought of as an enemy agent, not the person sitting behind a desk running thing with money.
There's something you're saying, you write, this was filmed at a time before the idea of thinking of Nazis as quote unquote very fine people was ever considered as serious. A whole new cultural lens to this viewing. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is, I always found it funny that Blankenship knows from the very beginning of this scene that Steve has been implicated as a spy, a traitor. Mm-hmm. But he waits. He waits for their whole discussion until the most opportune moment to say, well, that's right. They do suspect somebody, and it's you. Mm-hmm. And why not tell him, hey, come into my office. They suspect you as being a traitor.
Yeah.
He let Steve go sort of figure this all out himself. There's got to be someone, a traitor, even on the inside.
Yeah. It's another moment or another place where it shows the difference in these General Blankenships.
Yeah, absolutely.
That this one plays things very close to the vest and doesn't let the information out unless it really needs to be known.
And again, played pretty seriously. I don't think we ever saw Lau Wagner play this sort of, agitated or, in the pilot. I don't think he was ever angry or...
No, cool, calm, collected, fun. Yeah.
3 other important weapon shipments have been sabotaged recently. The FBI has established that in each case, you were on the scene or nearby.
I was always on military business under top secret orders.
Yes, and Arthur Deal has requested copies of all those secret orders. I've asked Diana to pull that file.
We need to find some files. And so we cut to the next scene, and they are both looking through the file cabinets for these orders that will prove that, Steve was just following what was on these written orders.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both going through them, but they cannot find the orders.
It brings up a question that as Kevin and I were watching this episode, he brought up specifically, who in the War Department stole the files? That is a story element that is never followed up on.
Yeah.
Who was working with the guy in the military that caused that explosion off the road? We never find out who in the government was working with the Nazis.
Again, here's another one of those things. Is it a plot hole? Is it something we can forgive? Is it enough to learn that Arthur Deal, having just been set up as this guy who is sort of above the law or able to govern from a state of authority,
mm-hmm.
I'm okay with thinking he had someone on the inside.
Right.
That once he was rooted out, so were all of his moles.
Yes.
They don't show it, they don't do it, but I can't imagine, as you said, I can't imagine this General Blankenship being all, okay, great, without finding out who the co-conspirators were, all of them, right?
But they never consciously put it in the thought of in the mind of the viewer or the child watching that somebody in the government might be working against the government.
Right. For Eagle Eye, freeze or you'll miss it. As Diana Prince is rifling through the files, she comes across a file Do you know what it says on it, Ray? It's a frame. It literally is just a frame. They kept it in just a frame, knowing that nobody would ever be able to pause it and read it. It's a location file. It says, location files, Warner Brothers Pictures Incorporated, not to be taken from the location office.
So they must have just grabbed files out of somebody's cabinet and thrown them in.
Yeah, isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful?
Good eye.
Oh, I'm low. I love this kind of stuff. You know, when we were doing Cyborgs, the Russian gymnast episode of The $6 Million Man called Love Song for Tanya, starring Kathy Rigby, there's a moment where someone looks at a piece of paper, and for about a second or two, we see a close-up of what they're reading. Now, the first couple of lines pertains to the episode, because that's about all you could really read in about a second or two, is the first couple of lines. They had no idea people were going to be able to stop this and read it. But it is hysterical. It is 3 paragraphs of this intern writing, well, today is the last day of production, and here I am typing out insert shots for this episode. Am I going to get any recognition for this? Is my time going to be worth it? Well, here I am. I'm doing it. Maybe I could just write about what I plan to do when we go on hiatus, about the vacation that I'm going to plan, but no one really cares.
Oh, my God.
It is written right there. And I'm like, oh, my God.
Wow. And we'll also see as we close out this scene in Steve's office, this and Fausta, you never see this eyebrow shape again on Lynda. They start shaping her eyebrows differently, and her Diana Prince hair is looser than the rest of the series, and these glasses are changed.
Oh, yeah.
Once we get to Beauty on Parade.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The whole Diana Prince persona is different from in Beauty.
Yeah, and I think in Beauty on Parade as well, they start using the red lipstick on Diana Prince, and here we just have a softer pink.
And I'm glad to see the sort of stage prop glasses go, because in the after Steve gets knocked out and he wakes up in her apartment, the way the light hits her glasses in that scene, they look like, glasses you'd get out of a Cracker Jacks.
Oh, I never caught that.
On a toy mirror.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like that kind of glass.
Well, we'll get there soon.
Right. And these glasses, the glasses are different, right? Aren't they? They're more round and Beauty onward.
Well, these are circular.
They are, but they have...
They're different than the one in the pilot.
Right.
These are brown.
They're round on the bottom, but they have a more sort of straight top. The ones in Beauty, they're more like full circle bottleneck type glasses, at least from memory.
Yes, and they're black, I believe, once we get to Beauty on Parade. Right now, they're the more tortoise shell.
There's something you mentioned in your notes, how this Diana Prince and Wonder Woman feel more charactery.
Mm-hmm.
You say Wonder Woman is softer and breathier than in the pilot. And this is where you think some of the directorial interference came in.
Yeah, I also don't think that the Wonder Woman of the pilot would have recoiled when the truck blew up.
Right.
It felt like she was ceding a little of her power to Steve.
And you say that she's less playful and light in this episode than the pilot.
Yeah, she's starting to feel more serious.
And she was very more natural and comfortable as Wonder Woman.
Agreed.
In the pilot. Confident, you said. You said confidence.
Confident, and whether it was just, Lynda not having much acting experience or not much, when she shoots the pilot, it's kind of a one-off thing.
Right, yeah.
You don't know if you're going to continue or not.
And she did her own thing.
Right.
And it was a much, as you say, a much more relaxed, comfortable, confident Wonder Woman.
Yeah, kind of laughing at the world around her.
Right. And we talked about how that was so much more connective to Marston's Golden Age.
Yes.
There's a little smirk all the time of like, oh, you silly people.
And now, outside of certain moments, it's more of a naivete.
Yes.
Whereas before it was just like, what is this? Is
yeah,
strange.
not even.
It's not a fish out of water anymore.
I will admit, though, I do like some elements of the fish out of water later on, like when she's reading American slang.
Yes, that's fun.
I like that kind of stuff. I like it mostly because that's the interactivity she has with Beatrice Colin. Man, I would have loved a second season of World War II. I really would have, because at the end of season 1, she's sort of really found out, she's playing Wonder Woman, she's regained that confidence. Even more so now by Wonder Woman, Hollywood, and Bushwhackers.
And they say in Fausta, the last 3 times Wonder Woman was seen, she was aiding this man, referring to Steve Trevor. So this is still very early on in even Wonder Woman, Diana's experience in the outside world. Now, seeing these episodes as a kid where I didn't have the pilot interpretation to inform me of who Wonder Woman would be, you know, it all makes perfect sense. This is who Diana Prince is. She's naive and, quote, dowdy.
Right.
And we see the change in Steve's character, too, where it's gone away from that lightness and playfulness into a little bit more...
Protective?
Protective, grounded, serious. Oh, what's the word? Archetype. They're playing an archetype more.
Oh, yeah.
Than they are. I just felt in the pilot movie, the characters had a little more breathing room and playful space. And then once these specials began and the series began, that started to lock down more. Because now we have responsibility to keep this show, keep certain things known about the show. We are probably not courting so much the adult viewer. We really need kids to be watching this. So it's a little more of a simplification, I think, is what I was going for in the series, as opposed to the pilot where things are a little freer.
There's no trace of those top secret orders anywhere, but they have to be here. I know I filed them, but I can't even find the folder.
They get the anonymous phone call from this mysterious guy, and he says, you know, those files you're looking for, I can get them back to you. All in a ploy to meet him at the old Virginia stables.
On the Fort Myer Road.
You know, he's going to go, and Diana's like, don't go, it's too dangerous. War is dangerous, Diana. Just what we were talking about, Ray. I believe Steve would have said that in the pilot. He would not have said it so seriously.
Yeah.
War's dangerous. You know, I mean, it would have been, you know, it's just, it would have been different. So I got a question, though. Steve leaves to go to the old Virginia stables on Fort Myer Road. Why doesn't Diana go and lock the door again and spin into Wonder Woman?
Good question.
This time she's going to grab her purse and go follow him on foot, only to be held up by General Blankenship.
Maybe she wanted to see that extra walking by again. The 2 extras walking by the hotel again. Yeah, that's a good question. I never thought of that.
Yeah, it's like, because it's the same situation. It's the same, she's in the same situation.
Right.
She's alone in the office, right?
And I think this is other than Judgment from Outer Space, this is the only time we see this lobby.
Yeah, I think you're right. Again, there is bustling going on, but it's smaller. It's more intimate. It's, you know, you don't have this stretch of and you've got elevators.
Mm-hmm.
So General Blankenship comes out and says, Diana, have you found those files? No, I'm still looking for them. Well, find them.
And she leaves.
And we cut right to big sign of the old Virginia stables on what?
The Fort Myer Road.
Anybody here?
Diana has told him that this is a trap. He knows that this is a trap. What he's not counting on is finding somebody else in there unconscious. That's what this works, because he sees an unconscious soldier and he goes to help him. That's the only way he gets...
Yeah, otherwise he's waiting at the door.
Right. This works for me. So the mysterious figure sneaks up behind Steve, knocks him out. We cut then to this figure leaving a hot tip for the cops.
It concerns Major Steve Trevor.
Who is this?
You'll find him at the old Virginia stables on the Fort Myer Road. He just set fire to its stockpile of ammunition.
So we cut back to, and I love this, here's Wonder Woman she's on the road running. Like she ran all the way there.
Bright primary colors against that. Green is just gorgeous.
I love, she really sticks out against this backdrop. And there's that wonderful shot of her, like sort of running head on towards the camera that I just love.
Yeah, and this is the costume that we saw in when she rescued Steve after the truck explosion.
You wrote Wonder Woman to the rescue in her bright primary color costume, launching her into our foreground. A soft, easeful run. Moving both Wonder Woman and us.
To the old Virginia State
on Fort Myer
Road. Where why did I write all this?
I love it. Where Major Stephen Leonard Trevor, lies unconscious in the flaming tongues. Holy cow, you're really getting creative here. Of peril, thanks to the man with the mysterious face and dashing accent who reported Steve to the authorities. Ray, I love that. You went above and beyond.
I guess I did there. A+ to me.
A+ to you. And so the stable's on fire. We cut to the entrance. She comes into the entrance, and she comes to Steve's side, and she sees the matches.
Steve, wake up.
And then we hear the sirens coming, and she's got this wonderful sort of desperate, concerned look. And that's where we end this on. I think we come to the first act break.
Yep.
Act 2, we open up on the police car approaching the Old Virginia stables on
the Fort Myer Road.
And we've got the Wonder Woman chorus.
Yes, we do.
Wonder Woman, Wonder Woman.
The Wonder Woman chorus. I can't tell you how much I love the Wonder Woman chorus. And that we get it here so prominently. She's not even on screen when we hear the Wonder Woman chorus. I love that.
But we know she's around.
We know she's around. We know she's coming. So she picks up the unconscious soldier, puts him in the Jeep, pushes Steve over, gets in the Jeep, busts through the barn. Wonder Woman knows how to drive.
She does.
It's a stick.
Busts through the barn wearing, black glasses.
Yes!
There's some kind of black bar running across her face. It might be some sort of thing that the stunt double wore to protect their eyes from the fire.
Yeah, it makes sense. And now, shortly thereafter... Is it shortly the rafter?
Shortly the rafter. I hate seeing misspellings like this. It feels so... There's something so unprofessional about it. And whenever I see things like this happen in media, I'm like, we need to... Did nobody notice this?
Did no one watch it?
Did we really just let them do the animation on this and get away with this? And they were like, well... Or did they see it and they were like, well, we don't have the money for them to do it again, so they'll only see it a few seconds.
Right. Why put it on there anyway?
Yeah.
Let's just take it. Is this the first misspelling in the captions that ever was, or are there more to come?
I think it's the only. I think. We have 12 more episodes to go, so.
Right. I know that it's, for the most part, it's all black caps against a yellow background. I think in Formula 407, they do some lowercase.
Oh.
When they're showing Argentina, saying how beautiful a country it is, it's lowercase.
I never noticed that.
And what typeface do you call that? What do you think that is? We should have talked about this in the pilot. That looks like rounded Arial to me.
I'm going to trust you on that.
That's what I've been using on all our promo stuff.
I am not as up on my typefaces as I used to be.
Okay, all right. Because there are a couple that was used in one. It was like a handful that was used in this whole series.
Yeah.
So we are at the rafter, and also known as Diana's apartment, in which Steve is unconscious, laying on her sofa. She's sitting in a chair next to him, looking sweetly upon his face. And Steve has a hot?
He has a hot compress on his head.
There we go.
Or a hot water bottle thing. I always thought that this was a different apartment than what we see in Feminine Mystique, which I believe is the only other time we see Diana's apartment. But it is not. It's the same apartment, just lit darker and from different angles.
You're all right, Steve. Just lie still. It's me, Diana. You're in my apartment.
Here's the shot that I talk about where the light hits her glasses and you can see that it's not real glass, thin plastic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But You talk about how the lipstick will change in Beauty. I have to say, I do like the more muted color palette as Diana and as Wonder Woman. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it in the ABC years. I like it more in the CBS years. I mean, one of your favorite episodes, The Deadly Toys, she's got that red glossy lips, and I'm like, what do you do? What? No, I don't like it.
Oh, by then I love it.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Her bun is higher.
It
in
is
these
higher.
Episodes. It doesn't have that low placement that we'll come to know.
My bell rang about 15 minutes ago, and I opened the door and found you lying outside with this note.
It was from Wonder Woman.
Yes, she believes that you were a victim of a Nazi sabotage ring.
These little moments where camp comes in, right? Little moments of humor. But here again, it's all in action. Reading the note, he crosses to the fireplace. He doesn't know that a mirror's there. But as soon as he spots it, he's like, oh, look, a mirror. Let me adjust my tie. Those are subtle little humor bits of business that Lyle may have thought of right there on the spot, and it works.
Yeah.
But it's not so overly, like that probably would have been augmented in the pilot. That would have been a little bit bigger. It's not here. It's just very subtle.
It would have been totally about his vanity in the pilot.
It absolutely would have been about his vanity.
Here it's more, the intention is more, I'm getting myself together and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's here where Diana is actually the one that recommends, if we want to get to the bottom of this.
What if you question the former leader, that Baroness in prison? She might know something.
And Steve's like, Diana, I was just about to say that.
It's exactly what I intended to do, Diana. Maybe just a coincidence, but all the sabotage attempts have taken place in the area of Fort Myer.
Yeah, and all before that, in the mirror, she's playing this wide-eyed, eyebrows up, hopeful, planting this idea in Steve's head. And then he takes credit for the idea, and she does this intake of breath. It's an immediate, I can't keep up this facade that I'm supposed to be playing. But she does this intake of breath like she's about to let him have it. And then she puts her head down and continues to play that wide-eyed, naive, more submissive role to the man.
Right.
She's letting us know full well, this is an act. I'm the one who had this idea. And I've got to give him the credit for it because this is just the way this relationship goes.
Exactly.
I suggest we pay the Baroness a visit.
One last thing before we cut to the penitentiary. You said that, Diana's apartment decor fits her. It's her wholesome conservative cover, and you're absolutely right. It's the flower prints on the furniture.
The unoffensive paintings, yes.
I know. There's no Mapplethorpe stuff there. So she's all set, man. No. General Blankenship would be totally at ease.
Yes.
We cut to the penitentiary, and we are in the warden's office.
The Baroness is a model prisoner. Quiet, refined, agreeable. It's hard to believe she's a dangerous enemy alien.
I hope you're keeping her well guarded, Warden, in spite of her refinement.
Of course. I run a very taut ship here. Nothing is allowed to disturb prison routine.
Hey, what's the idea?
And then we hear a crash just outside his office, and he gets up and he opens the door, and there's his young son, Tommy, and Hanson, the guard, who has caught him taking fingerprints with his detective kit. Tommy is not happy.
You did it on purpose. Like Dr. Moriarty did to Sherlock Holmes in the case.
Tommy, that'll be enough. All right, Hanson, go back to your duties.
Yes, Warden.
I told you to stop spending all day playing detective.
I will, Father, honest. But first I have to solve the mystery of this secret tunnel.
Tommy, no more of this Sherlock Holmes nonsense, you understand? Now, run outside and play. It's a fine afternoon. Come on.
Watch Diana throughout this entire scene. She is having subtle reactions to everything that's going on around her that just show she's already steps ahead of anything that Steve and the warden are saying. She recognizes immediately that Tommy's onto something. Diana is very much ahead of everybody else.
All these little nuanced looks and gestures. I mean, talk about, behavior signals. When they get to the cell with Von Gunther, Diana has her pegged.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when she faints into Steve's arms, again, watch Diana. She's like, okay.
Yeah, and there's another moment in this scene where Steve and Diana are laughing about Tommy, And Diana looks to Steve and just holds on this very lingering, warm, affectionate look toward him as Steve looks, I think he looks down and away from her. It's a really nice character and relationship moment.
Doesn't that speak volumes sometimes? You know, you're not looking at somebody, but they're looking at you.
I think so. As the warden walks back to his seat after dealing with Tommy, who has interrupted their whole meeting, Diana kind of gives the warden this suspicious look as he walks back toward his seat.
Like, why are you treating your son that way? Why are you dismissing your son?
Something's not sitting right. Yeah.
Right.
And he sits down and makes eye contact with Diana, and she smiles at him in that moment. And then as soon as he looks away, like the fake smile goes.
Right.
And she's back onto what is Tommy doing?
Right. And she actually turns back to the door to try and listen to see if she can still hear what's going on with Tommy.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, this again, your wonderful, beautiful subtleties. Let's talk about Christian Jutner. You say in your notes that he's on to Hansen.
Oh, yeah. You did it on purpose. He knows. Ruining stuff, planting evidence.
Just like Moriarty.
Yeah.
That's so good. So anyway, they've entertained this guy enough, and he has kept them with all the shenanigans with his son. So they bring him to the cell holding Baroness Von Gunther. So before they get to the cell, we've got Christian Jutner, and I love your comment. He's playing detective, he's playing Sherlock Holmes, and he discovers the secret tunnel.
We could have built a secret tunnel in the time that this scene takes, and will take again later in the episode.
Because it's the same scene.
Yeah.
Again, the economy, we're shooting 2 episodes. We're going to use as much of this stuff over and over again as we possibly can.
He's doing a good job to sell all of it.
He is. Yeah, good stuff there. You said you actually like when he gets in?
The door comes down. He does this very natural jump back.
That seems real to me.
Yeah, totally. And he's enjoying it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's loving it. He smiles.
Yeah, playing it. He's really selling it. Now, Baroness's cell. Let's talk about this cell here. You say she's got her pink towels. She has an ornate mirror, her perfumes. Again, she's got some status. She's able to walk out dressed the way she wants. And she's got her book and perfume. She's got a radio. Manservant Hansen, you call him, which he might as well be.
I'd love to know where this was filmed in the hallway, what location they used. Yeah,
it looks like a real prison.
It does look like a real prison. But yeah, her set, her space, she is so refined and put together and reformed. What a good American she is becoming.
What a good American.
2 visitors, Baroness.
When she gets the word that they're coming in, why does she grab the key and put it on? Why not toss it under the pillow? Why not just keep it out of sight? Why risk it? It doesn't seem very smart. And this is not to say that the Baroness isn't smart. She is keenly smart and devious. I think she's just arrogant.
Yeah.
I think she's just thinking that she's untouchable, that no one's going to know what this key is.
Yeah.
This is just my pendant.
Right. Yeah. She could have even shoved it in the book.
It's funny how, you find yourself rooting for the bad guy sometimes because they're like, just hide it. What are you doing?
Yeah. Why are you making this stupid mistake?
Hello, Baroness Von Gunther.
Major Trevor, what a pleasant surprise.
Thank you, Baroness. This is my secretary, Yeoman Prince.
How do you do?
Hello.
Baroness, what is it?
Well, just a little dizzy spell. I've been feeling rather ill lately.
You do look pale.
Maybe you'll feel better if you sit down, Baroness.
Yes, please, let me help you.
So again, here's the moment where they introduce themselves to her, and she faints into Steve's arms. And again, as you say, watch Diana. Diana looks at her. She's looking at Steve. She says, maybe you should sit down, Baroness. There's also a moment here. When she tells the Baroness to sit down, Christine Belford also gives a sort of look almost like she knows that Diana, she's heard a different tone. Yeah. She heard something completely different from Diana Prince. What is this fakery?
Yeah. I think the Baroness knows that she'll be able to get this over on Steve.
Right.
But not on another woman.
It's so good. The Baroness playing, as you say, things, she's playing them very internally. Mm-hmm. Diana Prince, her attention now is diverted out the window to Tommy. And then we get Steve oblivious to both of them. You know, as soon as Baroness brings up this book on democracy, he's sold. He's won over.
People change in prison. The loneliness, the isolation. I've done a lot of thinking behind these walls, Major, and a lot of reading.
The principles of democracy.
But Diana's not even paying attention to her in all this. She already knows this is all for nothing and that she's lying. And
that's why she starts looking out the window, right?
Yeah. You don't need me here.
Right.
I'm going to go save this kid. He's about to fall off a ladder.
So he spots the pendant. He's so consumed with that. Diana sees Tommy out the window, notices that he needs help, and then she's gone. Like, I need to go help him.
Yeah, she's been playing this objective ever since Tommy was introduced of, I need to talk to Tommy. And now this is an objective fulfilled.
Tommy knows what's going on.
Or about to be fulfilled, yeah.
So she makes up this thing about forgetting her stenographic notebook. And this surprises Steve, which tells us more about Diana Prince and how she is quite possibly the best thing that's happened to him. Certainly, she's no Marcia.
No.
She's out, and then on the heels of her leaving, Baroness makes a crack at her.
It's not like Diana to forget things. She's usually very efficient.
Really? She seems so plain and uninteresting. Her coloring's rather like wet Bisquick. And I'm sure she's blind as a bat without those glasses.
Blind as a bat. Does she know Lynda Carter in life? Blind as a bat without those glasses. And here Steve has to defend her.
Yeah.
I found this very interesting sort of bit of business that he's like, Diana, she's very hardworking and
totally loyal.
Stamma, yes.
And the Baroness kind of gives him this look like, my point being, you didn't really refute any of what I just said. But also to show that Steve is not attracted to Yeoman Prince.
Again,
at all.
The underlining sort of thread there is that he has to find the things that she's...
It's a step up from Dumber Than a Fat Lapdog After Dinner.
Yeah, a step up. We cut to Diana is descending the stairs into a locker room. She doesn't care. She's Wonder Woman. She's in a prison.
She'll even spin right in front of the crew.
I know.
That's right.
The crew can be seen on the very right edge of the screen. Can they be seen on the DVD?
Yes. And then I really noticed it on the Blu-ray.
And I'm sure you couldn't see it when it aired on TV because the scanning of the broadcast signal and the shape of your TVs back then would have cut all of that off.
Yeah, would have cut it off.
The widescreen, you get a really full view.
Right.
Tell me about this spin, Ray.
I love this spin. I love that the spin has purpose. It has energy. The music just drives it forward. She remembers her bracelets. It just launches the action that's about to follow.
Agreed. Absolutely. Do you think somebody's in the locker?
No, nobody's in the... Yeah, and Dora is in the locker.
Dora, yeah.
She has shrunken herself into the locker space. But yeah, this spin just has... Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
All right, so let's talk about this running shot. As an editor, it really kind of irks me. It looks like they use two different takes of her coming out of the shadow.
Yeah.
And in one of them, she starts to say her line, and in the other one, she doesn't.
Right.
But they use both of them, which makes her come out of the shadow twice. They just didn't get the coverage they needed, and they're trying to make up for it in post, and it's really annoying to look at.
Yeah, it's funny. We do have the leather boots here, too. Oh, wait. The stunt woman gliding on air currents is wearing the vinyl.
Yeah.
And Lynda is wearing the, I guess it's leather.
Leather or suede, isn't it? Is it more? Yeah.
Or suede, possibly.
Help! Wonder Woman! Hold on, Tommy! Hold on!
The glide up, I love it.
I do too.
Some people look at, I've showed, we've all been there. We've talked about this, our personal stories. Other people have watched, and there's no shortage of what's that or that. Oh, that looks really choppy and chunky. And you know what? It does. It does look really choppy and chunky. But you know what? It's awesome. I think it's fantastic.
That's why I'm saying gliding on air currents.
Right.
She's using her 70s powers.
I love it so much.
It's not just a jump.
Right.
She has a little bit of control over how she ascends.
Steady now. We'll be
be down in a minute.
And here we have the industrial rope once again.
Yep.
And the rappelling down the building with Tommy piggybacking. This looked totally believable. I didn't know it was a dummy as a kid. I loved it.
Put your arms around my neck and hold tight.
But you and I have the same note about when she's talking to Tommy here once they're on the ground. She's just radiant here. And she's...
Total goddess.
Yeah. Oh, my God. The smile.
The way the light's reflecting on the tiara.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gives her a glow.
Are you all right?
Sure, thanks to you, Wonder Woman.
Why did you climb up that ladder?
I was trying to get up to the tower. I saw somebody up there last night flashing signals with a light.
Did you see who it was?
No, but I thought maybe I'd get his fingerprints and find out. But I forgot my kit.
When I was a kid, it's funny, we talked about how this was, one of the reasons, maybe, perhaps, it was because lead with the kid in the story. I was younger than Tommy here, but I could I wanted to be the detective that was helping Wonder Woman. I wanted Wonder Woman to be talking to me and looking at me the way Lynda was looking at Tommy with that bright smile.
Yeah.
And again, the assuredness that she has here.
Sweet. If you look at Wonder Woman's bracelets when her hand is on Tommy's shoulder, you can see the cushioning that they've put into these bracelets so they don't bother Lynda's arms.
In the pilot, she didn't have that cushioning. We didn't see that.
Right.
And it must have been really just, I don't know if you're a jewelry wearer or if you ever wore cuffs or whatever, even costumes, but man, sometimes that stuff can dig into your skin. And
yeah, the cuff can be uncomfortable.
We quickly cut back to Baroness, the interrogation. Steve's not very happy because he realizes that she's been giving him the runaround.
Yeah.
Excuse the interruption, Major, but it is almost time for the prisoner's daily exercise drill. Of course, if you're not through with the questioning.
No. It's quite all right.
Where's Yeoman Prince?
She went outside to get something from the car. I wonder what's keeping her. Oh, well, we're finished here. We'll run into her on the way out.
So Steve leaves. The Baroness looks out the window and sees Wonder Woman with Tommy. Now, she can't hear them, but remember, she is a smart and cunning woman, and she's going to figure it out.
Is your lasso really magic?
Yes. It has a certain great power. It forces people to speak only the truth when they're bound with it.
Wow, I wish I had one. That'd be perfect for detective work.
So Wonder Woman spots Steve coming out of the prison. She asks Tommy to hold on to the lasso for her.
I haven't got time to get my lasso now, Tommy. Will you pry it loose and take care of it for me till I come back? It'll be our secret.
Sure, Wonder Woman.
Thank you.
She touches his face.
Yeah.
She touches his face. It's so adorable.
Oh, little Paul, she's touching your face too.
Lynda, you can touch my face. So the Baroness watches with a smile as Tommy gets the lasso and the wheels in her head are turning. Now Diana comes out of the prison saying she got lost, and Steve's like, don't get lost in a prison. Anyway, they both agree that this visit was a waste of time. Diana says that the Baroness just isn't trustworthy, and Steve says she knows more about the current spy activity than she lets on. And he's right! The Baroness tells Hanson that she needs to see Thor.
Now that Major Trevor is suspicious, we will have to discuss a change in plans.
Yes, Baroness, but I've lost my key for the tunnel door.
Take mine for now. Hurry.
And the Baroness smiles her smarmy smile as we come to the end of Act 2.
Wonder Woman will continue in a moment.
Hi, Kevin MacDonald here from Mesa, Arizona. What I remember about Wonder Woman meets Baroness Von Gunther, I love the fact that when she says to Tommy, hold on, Tommy, hold on, while she goes to rescue him. But I also love the fact that when she and Christine Belford are rolling down the hill on the grass, if you also notice, the house that they used as Arthur Deals was also used in many other things, including Dabney Coleman's character Franklin Hart Jr. in the movie 9 to 5.
I love how the opening of Act 3 opens up. Tommy is perched. It's at night. He's perched in his treehouse hiding spot. He's still the detective. When does this kid sleep?
This is what happens when you read. You become suspicious.
spurred on by knowledge. That's right.
Yeah, but he's watching Hansen give the signal to the other Nazis that they're ready to move the Baroness. He's writing down all the clues, and then here comes the Baroness in that gorgeous red cloak.
Now, here's the thing. Again, it's not stuff that we question because we're kids. But you see the Baroness leaving the prison. Do not run and tell your dad? Hey, Dad, the model prisoner.
I think his dad has already set up that he has zero interest in his child.
You're right.
It's just very clear that his father would have told him to go do something else. So,
right. But Dad!
And not believe him. So I fully understand Tommy's motivation here of not saying a word.
You're absolutely right, because we will get that later on. He will try to tell his dad, and his dad will dismiss him. Now we come to the exterior of this beautiful estate.
Which has been at least twice on Murder, She Wrote, and I'm sure many other shows. Possibly even Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
In another episode, yeah.
And we get the Baroness exiting. She tells Hansen to keep his eyes open. I always find that funny. Like, I expect him to turn around and start looking around very campily. So here we get introduced to Thor. Now, we don't know who Thor is yet, but we get the Baroness coming in and meeting Thor. Now, what's interesting about this scene in which Thor and the Baroness discuss Steve Trevor, discuss Wonder Woman, discuss their whole plan. It's a wonderful bit of exposition, but it's also two really great actors playing two over-the-top characters and just having an absolute ball with playing these characters.
Mm-hmm.
He's got his drink. She's going to light a cigarette on a cigarette holder.
Yeah.
I have some pages from Bradford Dillman's script of this episode. He has handwritten notes. In one of them, he writes a note about cigarette holder. I don't know what that means, whether he was originally going to have a cigarette as well, but he has a handwritten note on his script about cigarette holder with a question mark. I love that kind of stuff.
Maybe he was going to offer it to her?
Maybe. I mean, anything, absolutely anything is possible.
Or that's what he focused on?
Oh, yeah, something to look at. Absolutely. Now, you say that Dillman's playing the bubbly...
Yeah, he's playing the bubbly of his drink throughout the entire scene. You can see it in some of his gestures and just his overall quality.
We have spent weeks making Steve Trevor look like a double agent.
They discuss what they're going to do about Steve Trevor and how they're going to make him continue with the frame-up and kill him and leave his body at the site of the sabotage.
And you really begin to see the ice behind her eyes as she's saying all this.
I absolutely love it. And here's the scene.
But everything was running smoothly until the incident at the stable. That was your error.
That was your error.
Somebody helped him get away.
Well, at least we agree on that. And I'm convinced it was Wonder Woman.
Number one.
Wonder Woman.
Number two.
Yeah.
And I always... Wonder Woman.
What makes you think that?
I saw her talking to the warden's son at the prison today while Trevor was there. I've heard she pays close attention to the Major's activities.
So, a good little scene between them. I like it very much. We need to get Trevor into the captive hands of Baroness. How are we going to do it?
Why not capture him? We can change our plan and make it look as if he defected to the Nazi cause. Perhaps we can even arrange to have him present when the rocket shipment is destroyed.
Excellent. Then he'll be blamed for that, too.
Thor says, I'll get him to come to us. Now, we don't know what that means. How are you going to get Trevor to come to, quote-unquote, us?
There must be no doubt of his guilt.
There won't be. Not after we leave his body at the scene of the sabotage.
Ah, yes. His all-American body. Splendid.
We cut to the General Blankenship.
I have bad news, Steve. Arthur Deal has had your special hearing moved up. It's scheduled for tomorrow. And unless you can prove your innocence, they'll place you under house arrest to await court-martial.
Arthur Deal has asked for a special interview with you. And if you can make your case with him, maybe you can save yourself.
Get out of it, yep.
Next, moving on, Baroness has put into action her plan. The plan that hatched while she was looking out the window. She's going to get her hands on the lasso. Remember, it's all about the lasso. It was about the lasso in the comic book. And how does she do it? She befriends Tommy.
And manipulates him.
She finds him reading Sherlock Holmes, The Hound of the Baskervilles, on a bench in the prison courtyard, as you do when you're a child in a prison with a bunch of prisoners milling about. Baroness cozies up to him, feigning interest in Sherlock Holmes and lying about being Wonder Woman's close friend.
She is?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I got a message from her this morning. It's a message for you.
Honest? What is it?
She wants to be sure you're taking good care of the golden lasso.
Well, I am. It's in a real safe place.
Good.
But see, again, Tommy knows that she's escaping, right? So
right.
It annoys me just a little bit that he's all, oh, wow, Wonder Woman's your friend? Oh, wow, really? You know about the Sherlock Holmes? It just kind of bugs me.
I buy it.
Yeah, you buy it. Okay.
I do, because he's still a kid.
Sure, all right.
Yeah.
She says, look, Wonder Woman's one of my closest friends. She wants to make sure that you're taking care of the lasso. Go make sure it's safe. He says, sure. She says Hanson off to follow him. He spies Tommy looking at the lasso, knows where it's hidden, hooked on a tree stump in Tommy's perch. And he's got a nice little smirk, which brings us actually to the end of Act 3. Act 4 opens up. We're at the big the meet cute. Steve is meeting with Arthur Deal to plead his case, and now we get to see...
Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Deal. I appreciate it very much.
I try to keep an open mind, Major.
Thor is Arthur Deal III. If you didn't know, as a 5-year-old like I was, you did a big, oh, that's Arthur Deal III? Okay, that was me when I was...
I don't think I ever had that reaction.
That was me when I was 5. Shut up. So Steve's making his case, and we get this absolutely, you call it the Baroness in her freedom dress?
Yeah, I guess that's the dress she wears when she's free.
Right.
To glam it up a little bit outside of her dowdy prison black dress.
As if the cloak wasn't enough. She comes out from behind it's a divider, right? It's a room divider.
Yeah.
And which will come into play later on as well. She likes hiding behind that divider.
Yep.
And it's going to do her in.
Yep.
So she comes out, reveals herself to be in cahoots with Arthur Deal III.
Which accounts for the renewal of our fair activity. How clever of you to recognize the key, Major. Darling.
I love Lyle Wagner's like, what? What? I've been taken in.
This time, Major, you're in a fix even your friend Wonder Woman can't undo.
We cut now at night, War Department. Blankenship is talking to Arthur Deal, and it's like, now that you've had a chance to meet him, don't you know what an upstanding patriot he is? No.
Arthur Deal is more convinced than ever of Steve's guilt.
And where is he? I don't know. I think he's gone AWOL, or as Arthur Deal says,
AWOL.
So they hang up. The general is not happy. He thinks, holy cow. Diana wringing her hands. They are in a conundrum. We cut back to the prison. Here is Baroness Von Gunther coming back out of the prison in the cloak. This time she has the golden lasso because, of course, Hanson got it. And here's Tommy perched in his tree watching all of this. Mm-hmm. And he's very upset. He was already in the tree. Yeah. He didn't know it was missing until he saw the Baroness. I love what you say about how the gold is gleaming in the dark.
Oh, it looks beautiful on the Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah. We cut back to Arthur Deal's estate. He's tied up to the chair. Not very well. I mean, I think he could have broken out of these
easily.
Restraints. It's just him and Arthur Deal.
Easily.
You know?
Easily.
In his smoking jacket.
Yeah.
But I'm like, really? What are you going to,
He could have just slumped down in the chair and been out of that.
He could have kicked him.
Yeah.
Could have kicked the books right off his table.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a confession that Arthur Deal has written for him. He's reading it to him. Steve's like, oh, you're not going to get me to sign that.
I, Major Steve Trevor, proudly confess that I am a Nazi spy and have been for a long time. I personally sabotaged the weapons shipment to undermine America's war effort. Now I am returning to Germany. But before leaving, I will destroy a final top priority target for the glory of the Third Reich. But it has a ring to it, don't you think? All it requires is your signature.
You'll never get me to sign that.
He'll sign.
In comes stunning Christine Belford.
Do you recognize this, Major?
Holding the golden lasso.
That's Wonder Woman's golden lasso.
That's right. And if you ever want to see her alive again, you'll sign that letter. Promptly.
Cut to the confession in General Blankenship's hands. He's just received it. He walks in. We must stop and pause because who are we introduced to? Not really introduced to at all.
Etta.
But
Etta's there. She's so stressed, and she's eating her lemon meringue pie.
She's eating her lemon meringue pie. And again, if you don't know anything, does he even mention her, call her by name in this scene? I don't even know.
No.
Blankenship, very upset over the fact that he has a written confession. The FBI is out to get Steve now to shoot him on sight if he resists.
Oh, we've got to help him, General.
It'll take a miracle. If Wonder Woman is anywhere near, Steve needs her more than ever before. If only there were some way to contact her.
General, Steve gave me some of his confidential papers for safekeeping. They might have some information about contacting her. They're in my apartment.
Well, get them. Hurry, take my car.
Thank you, sir. But I'll manage as quickly on foot in this blackout.
Steve has papers describing how to get in contact with Wonder Woman. She knows that their papers exist, but she doesn't know how to get in contact with Wonder Woman. I keep them.
That probably don't even exist in the first place. They're just an excuse to get her out of there.
Exactly. Probably have Warner Brothers' location.
She just needed a reason to get out and to show that Wonder Woman would be there if they're found together.
Blackout. What do you think she means by blackout?
That it's dark outside.
Really?
That's all. That it's just really, really dark out.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would it be a black? Why did she call it a blackout? It's just nighttime. I have always thought that she meant that it was a characterization of the circumstances that they were in.
Oh, I never connected that. No, I just figured it's night and she just wanted to run home quickly and not wait for a car or anything like that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Great. All right. Super.
And also it's a rushed excuse to get her out of the door. And she's out before they can even question what she's done or said.
That works. So she finds Tommy at his secret tree. How does she know about his secret tree?
Hello, Tommy.
Wonder Woman, your lasso, the Baroness stole it.
No, when?
Tonight. And she and Hanson took it away. I saw them leave in a car.
Did you see the license number?
Sure. 23605. I wrote it in my casebook.
Don't worry, Tommy. I'll get it back from them. You go to bed now. It's late.
Go to bed, because it's late. And they both leave. She looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
This night shot, the lighting on her face, the glimmering of the costume, it is absolutely gorgeous. I love it. Of course, Hanson is listening on this. It always annoyed me that Wonder Woman somehow did not know that they were being spied on. I can live with it. Okay, that's fine. Next, we have another, as Andy says, wonder ventriloquism.
Love it.
She's in a phone booth, and now she's impersonating General Blankenship, and she's tracing the license plate number.
And her hair looks beautiful.
Oh, she's so... Again, this whole nighttime shooting is wonderful.
Department of Motor Vehicles, this is General Blankenship at the War Department. I have an emergency request which must be carried out immediately.
We'll do our best, General. What is the request?
Trace and identify license number 23605.
Just a moment, sir.
One of the names in the file in the Rolodex of names, right before Arthur Deal III. Nunnally Johnson, a real person. He was born in 1897 in Columbus, Georgia. He started out as a newspaper delivery boy, and then fast forward many years, and he's in Hollywood. And he was a producer, a director, and he was a scriptwriter. They classified him as a perfect example of a Hollywood scriptwriter. He wrote Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath, Three Faces of Eve, which he also produced and directed. He was a friend of Groucho Marx, so Nunnally Johnson was an actual person.
That's the license number of a 1939 Packard, General. It's registered to Arthur Deal III, number 8 Estate Drive, Arlington.
Did he have anything to do with this episode?
I wonder if the director or the writer knew him, or maybe they needed somebody's, like they used in the filing cabinet. They just grabbed somebody's Rolodex of files and stuck it in there and then made one for Arthur Deal.
Oh, nice. So Wonder Woman finds Arthur Deal's estate. She enters through the French doors. There's Steve, now tied to the chair with the lasso.
Good evening. We've been expecting you, Wonder Woman.
Out from the divider comes Baroness with knockout gas. Wonder Woman goes down.
Effective, isn't it, Major? Darling. It's a newly developed sleeping gas. One of the Third Reich's brilliant accomplishments.
And this is a different dress, right?
Yes, this is different than her freedom dress. This is her, I'm going to call this one her arrogance dress. I've won. You're not sending me back to prison. Look how good I look.
These chains are another brilliant German accomplishment. The metal is tempered with a special process. It's unbreakable, even by elephants.
She does look good with a new hairdo also.
Our plan worked perfectly.
So Thor picks up the chains and begins to secure Wonder Woman as a helpless Steve looks on. And we come to the end of Act 4. Act 5 opens up on the prison. It's the next day, and the warden learns that the Baroness has escaped.
Escaped? What are you waiting for? Sound the alarm! Don't let anybody in or out. Search every cell, use every man we have. The Baroness must be apprehended. I'll take charge of one detail myself. Not now, Tommy. The very dangerous prisoner has escaped. Now go to...
Tommy tries to tell his dad everything that he knows. The dad dismisses him because the Baroness is missing and they have to go find him.
I know how the Baroness got out.
So, you've been spying on the Baroness, eh?
Hanson
kidnaps Tommy. Man, this guy gets all around everywhere. He's up to no good everywhere.
Yeah.
Brings him to the mansion as well. So now we've got Tommy, Steve, and Wonder Woman all tied up, and they say that they're going to let him go once they take care of Steve and Wonder Woman. But don't you get the idea that this is not going to happen? So now we're cutting back and forth. We're back at the penitentiary. Now Hanson's gone. Tommy's gone. Warden finds the clue book, sees all Tommy's notes, finds the key, follows the key to the tunnel, finds the tunnel, realizes, my God, my son was telling the truth. I've been such a bad parent. Use the key, and let's find out this license plate number. We cut back to the estate. Baroness is getting ready to leave, but what to do about their prisoners?
Untie him. He'll ride with us.
What about her?
Throw her in the trunk and take care of the child.
Hanson and the chauffeur grab Wonder Woman and start to pull her up, but they needn't bother because Wonder Woman leaps out of the chair, breaking the unbreakable chains, and in so doing, sends Hanson and the chauffeur flying in the process.
Yeah.
In the commotion, Steve goes for the gun that Arthur Deal has. Somehow, Arthur Deal maneuvers away from Steve, sending Steve rolling on the floor. Arthur Deal turns around, ready to shoot him. This always annoyed me, but you say you love it. Wonder Woman has no business being where she is, and yet she's just there.
Yeah.
Deflecting the gunshot.
Wonder speed.
Right. You say that in your mind, it's Wonder Speed. She was there.
Yep.
Hey, I'm here.
She flipped the chains off, immediately ran in front of him to protect him after he fell.
Commotion ensues. She takes care of the Baroness, throws her again into the room divider that she's been hiding behind twice now in this episode. Steve takes care of both the guys and Hanson while the Baroness makes her escape. I love how when the room divider falls on her, Tommy, real like as you would, you look at that and you go, ooh, like you cringe when it falls on her.
Yeah.
It's a real cringe. I love that.
Yeah.
She makes her escape. Wonder Woman says, I'm going after the Baroness. Steve wants to go with her. She says, no, take care of Tommy. And she goes after her. Now, she does this wonderful leap over the hedges.
Leaping Lindas,
and she falls onto Christine Belford. Now, go and make yourself a cup of coffee, maybe bake a cake, because we're going to go down this hill. And how long did it take you to watch this? Because it takes about 3 hours.
To get down the hill. The big reveal at the end, though, is that Lynda is in the pilot costume. This is the last time she will wear this costume.
Oh, okay. Now, we're going to play this scene for you in which Wonder Woman and the Baroness fight and roll down the front of the lawn of the estate, over which you're going to hear the voice of stunt woman Jeannie Epper from an interview with the Television Academy in 2014, I think. She's talking about a wardrobe malfunction during the filming of it that happened to her. Now, when you hear her say the word "this," she's talking about her top. And when she refers to these, well, she's referring to her, these. So here's the late, great Jeannie Epper over this epic finale fight.
I'm going after the Baroness.
I'll go with you.
No. You have your hands full here. And take care of my friend Tommy, please.
A Wonder Woman wardrobe malfunction. I had to hit a mini tramp, go over a hedge, they call it bulldog, take down a stunt girl named Donna Garrett. and she was supposed to be Faust, the German spy girl, and I was saving the day. And just as I went up and I had committed myself into it, this came down, and this was on its way down. And now I'm like, I can't go back to here because I'm going to fall to the concrete. So when I completely finished it, these were here. She's trying to put my clothes back on me as we're fighting, rolling down the hill. And the cameraman, you know it's somewhere, because the cameraman never quit filming it. And there were just little things now we learned from that how to fix that problem. The wardrobe people fixed it.
All right, as you heard there, Jeannie calls the German spy girl Faust. I think she's just fudging the name Fausta because it's been so long. But she also mistakes Fausta for Baroness, since it was Baroness who rolls down the hill. Look, Jeannie's career was so full, it's a credit to her that she remembered any trivia, like character names. But it's also another clue that Jeannie stunted for Lynda on both Baroness and Fausta. She's not super identifiable in this episode in Baroness, but you can clearly make her out a few times in Fausta, and we'll be pointing her out when we review that episode. In fact, we're going to try to ID all of Lynda's stunt women and men, because there were also men, but we want to give all of the stunt Wonder Women their proper recognition. Jeannie is the most famous, but there was also Kitty O'Neil, Kim Renee, Beth Newfer, Debbie Evans, and if there's a stunt woman that you can add to this list, please let us know. So this wonderful battle ends. The Baroness tries to make good on her escape finally. Wonder Woman lassos her. Baroness falls into the pool. Wonder Woman pulls her out, and they're joined by Steve and Tommy.
Tommy, your father will never doubt you again.
It looks as if you're going to have more time to read about democracy, Baroness. Lucky you find it so fascinating. Perhaps now you'll appreciate it and learn from your unwomanly mistakes.
Unwomanly.
Mistakes.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's Golden Age Wonder Woman. That's Marston. Which brings us to the end of Act 5. And here is the tag. We're at the War Department.
Same extras walking by in a different direction.
And so, Wonder Woman captured the Baroness.
On the inside, as you say, I alluded to this earlier, Ray, you say, here's the 4 civil servants, heroes in this story. We still don't know who this woman is standing next to Blankenship. We haven't been told who she is.
We would know if we saw Fausta first.
Oh.
Well, I certainly hope that the Baroness realizes freedom and democracy are the only causes worthy of her intelligence.
So we end on this scene, keeping the tradition up from the end of the pilot, where Diana gives some words of wisdom about the Baroness, about Arthur Deal. Mm-hmm. And Steve's like, Steve is very taken with her idea of justice. Mm-hmm. And this final line by Diana Prince says it all.
Diana, your understanding and compassion are amazing. You really do believe that people can learn to change for the better.
Yes. Where I was raised, we were taught that good must triumph over evil, and that women and men can learn.
And then we are out. Freeze frame on Diana Prince, Lynda Carter, secretly Wonder Woman, with a smile. And we go to the end credits. The end credits, by the way, that have the double vocal song as the end credits. And that brings us to the end of this episode, Ray.
A couple things to note about the credits. Carl Silvera,
yes,
Carl Sylvera, is credited with makeup on this episode and Fausta. In the pilot and in Beauty on Parade, he's credited as Carl Silvera, but Karl Silvera, which is the correct spelling. He did makeup on 19 episodes of the series. Shirley Paget is credited as the new hairstylist, who is replacing Pat Miller from the pilot. Sherry Ruff will arrive with Beauty on Parade, and I believe is on the series through the end.
Wow, okay.
Bill McLaughlin remains as set decorator. I don't know if that changes. It's been a while since I've looked at that. So just some things to note about the credits.
Excellent, excellent. And again, we want to give everybody their due, so we'll be spotlighting various production people over the course of our look at the TV show, so please stay tuned for that. Okay, a few more tidbits before we open the vault and take a behind-the-scenes look at the development of the Baroness episode with Andy Mangels. The comic books featuring Wonder Woman that were on sale when the Baroness aired were Wonder Woman Volume 1, Issue 224, featuring a story called Wonder Woman versus the United States. Wow. Written by Marty Pasco, art by Kurt Swan and Vince Coletta. Wow, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Anyone reading the Tom King run? The other comic was Justice League of America Volume 1, number 132, with a story called The Beasts Who Fought Like Men. Written by Jerry Conway, art by Dick Dillon and Frank McLaughlin. We will go a little deeper into those comic stories on our Fausta episode.
Oh, cool.
Bobby Joe and the Outlaw, Lynda Carter's feature film debut, was playing in theaters while Baroness and Fausta hit the small screen.
Oh, wow. I never realized that.
Wonder Woman came in 12th in the Nielsen ratings for this episode. 37% share of people watching TV that night tuned in.
I believe that's up from the pilot.
Absolutely. Bob Hope only got 32 share. Bob Hope came in 20th.
That's why he wanted Lynda on his show in the 80s.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, here we go. Our special segment in which we examine the scripts from each episode with our special guest, USA Today bestselling author and co-author of 30 fiction and nonfiction books, including Star Trek and Roswell, Iron Man, X-Files, and Star Wars titles. He is the author of Wonder Woman 77 Meets the Bionic Woman. Awesome! He is Wonder Woman historian and fellow superfan Andy Mangels, and we've kept him locked away in a super-secret security vault beneath Paradise Island. At least that's what we're telling people. Okay, open her up! Andy Mangels! Hey, it's been a minute, and you've been in the vault here. Look at all these scripts, my God.
You know, it's a little musty in here, but thankfully, all this darkness has allowed my beard to retain color.
Oh, come on, who are you kidding? That's just for men. Now get out here into the light so we can talk. It's good to have you back on the podcast, Andy. The Andy Mangels.
Thank you. Thank you.
We call this the Vault segment, or as Andy has suggested, it could be called Secrets from the Vault. And basically what that is that this segment is having to do with the actual scripts of Wonder Woman. And Andy has been extremely gracious to open up the vault of his Wonder Woman script collection, share the scripts with us so we can analyze them, look at possible scenes that might have been written but never made it on the screen. And man, there are some doozies in Wonder Woman, which we'll get to. But I also want to use this time that we have so that people learn. I mean, yes, you were our guest for the pilot and we learned a lot about you, but I want to talk about, you're the only person I know that has such an extensive collection of Wonder Woman television scripts. What interested you in obtaining them, and have you been doing it all your life, or when? What was the first script that you got?
I think that the first script I got was probably in my 20s. The very first Wonder Woman TV item that I got was some 8x10s that I bought at a used bookstore in Kalispell, Montana. But the first script I got, I think, was in my 20s, and I think I got it from one of the, at that point in time in Hollywood, they had stores that sold stills and press kits and scripts and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's where I got my first one. And as a writer, one of the things that is fascinating to me is how they take what is written and then translate it onto film or television, and what they use and what they don't use and things like that. So as a writer myself, I look at those things and say, could this have been done differently so that they would have used that scene? Why did they not use those scenes, etc.? It's also a little bit of like, knowing these little nuggets of information about what they maybe did or didn't film, and how the network treated the scripts, how the producers treated the scripts. it's always really fascinating to look at what went into the making. You know, it's kind of like nowadays when people watch cooking shows, they aren't just eating the food at the end, they're actually seeing how it's made. And the script is one of the first steps in that process, and really the one that influences it the most.
I imagine the scripts were also great teaching tools as well. As you say, in your 20s, you were starting to, I mean, your long career of publication and magazines and books and articles and liner notes. Had you also ever tried to write for television and stuff like that? Did you look at these and say, oh, wow, you were learning how a television script was, from formatting to description and then dialogue and stuff like that?
Well, because I'm an ancient old man, you know, back in the days when Wonder Woman was on the air and when Star Wars came out and things like that, Superman the movie, which were all things that I was really fascinated by, the amount of books or materials that were available to people to study about script writing and screenwriting were very, very few. So when you got the ability to get the actual scripts and study them, it was a way to learn about how things were put together. Now, oddly enough, even though I've written just about everything in terms of different things, and I've even written things that people don't know about. I've written an animation TV show Bible. I've written escape room, virtual reality theme park ride.
Wow!
I've written a whole bunch of really bizarre stuff that people don't know about. The one thing I haven't actually written is a teleplay or a film script. Part of that is a stubbornness on my part, in that I've often said I'm not going to sit and write something unless I know it's going to sell. And so I've written pitches for scripts. In fact, I pitched for the She-Hulk movie back when Brigitte Nielsen was in it. I wrote a pitch for that way back when.
Wow.
So I've done pitches, but I haven't actually sat down and written, scene 1, 79A, scene 2, 79B. I haven't done that type of thing because nobody's said we're going to shoot it.
So if somebody said, look, we've got a $500,000, we're going to make a short independent movie, and we want you to write it, Andy. Then you would hunker down and say, okay, I'm going to write this script.
Absolutely. And I have no doubt that I could do it, because comic books, the way I style my comic book scripts is very similar.
Oh my God.
Very, very, very similar to
they read like scripts.
Yeah.
They read like movie scripts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You've read my comic scripts.
Yeah.
And so
I have.
So you can see that translating that into the style of a movie or TV script would not be difficult to do.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. All right, let's refocus a little bit to Wonder Woman meets Baroness Von Gunther. And before we get into my breakdown, I want to know, when you think about Wonder Woman meets the Baroness Von Gunther, what do you think? What hits you? What strikes you?
There's a couple of things. One is that, other than the pilot, this is the most faithful to a comic book story that they ever did, because at that point in time, DC had released large treasury format editions of Sensation #1 and Wonder Woman #1. So readers and DC fans were familiar with the stories in those two issues. So for them to actually adapt a story from Wonder Woman issue #1 and fairly faithfully so, it was pretty amazing. And as a young fan, even I knew that they were adapting a story from the comic. And that's not something you see much in films or television shows that are adapted from comics. They'll take the characters, they'll take the scenarios, but they don't literally adapt the stories very well.
Do you think that it was sort of expected that they would do this, considering that the Kathy Lee Crosby film was a great rating success, but critics didn't like it? Stanley comes in and goes, you know what? I'm just going to adapt the backup story in All-Star 8. I'm just going to do that origin story. And it worked. Do you think that it was sort of like, well, we have to do it again? We'll assign this to Margaret Arman, but we're gonna tell her, look, you need to adapt this story. And then Fausta, she's another character from the comics. We need to do something with her. Do you think that they were sort of, they felt compelled to sort of keep going back to they stop after Fausta, but you look at these three, the pilot, Fausta, and Baroness, and it's sort of like that was their modus operandi, was to rip from the comic.
Well, I don't think that. I know that.
Aha!
The reason why is because I have notes and materials from when they were developing the TV show where they're talking about it.
This is why you've come to Satin Tights podcast, Pete. This is why we've stuck Andy in the vault. We're harnessing his secrets.
Right.
What do you have? What are they talking about in these notes?
There is a set of notes here that I have from June 4th, 1975, and it's DSC, which is Doug Kramer. He's staying at the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel in Kamuela, Hawaii.
Naturally.
He says, Wonder Woman comic book stories written 1942 to 45. The first 4 have had a little work done on them. The rest are direct lifts from the original comics done by a secretary in New York. So the plots for these 4 stories, which were intended to be the first 4 Wonder Womans, were actually summarized from the Wonder Woman comics by a DC Comics secretary, then sent in to Doug Kramer's office, and then they took those stories and adapted them for film. Now, some of them made it onto the air, that being Baroness Von Gunther and Fausta the Nazi Wonder Woman, but some of the others did not make it onto the air. The Crime Combine, that is Baroness Von Gunther's story, but it is a very, very early version of kind of combining her first appearance with her second appearance. And then they decided to split them up to be the new original Wonder Woman and the Baroness meet again. And that's this story. That's Wonder Woman meets Baroness Von Gunther, was originally going to be titled The New Original Wonder Woman and the Baroness Meet Again. And it was the 4th of the plots that was taken directly from the comic by a DC Comics secretary who typed it up. It's a 4-page memo.
Wow.
It's essentially what we see in the show,
right,
with some changes. In the comic, she gets on a horse and jumps the horse on top of a U-boat. And, there's all kinds of things like that.
They never would have been able to afford that.
Correct. Nor could they have gotten a horse to jump onto a U-boat.
Right. Right.
But it is more faithful to the comic in the first treatment. In the comic, there's a scene where she kisses Freddy on the cheek,
right,
and gives him his own lasso.
She says, "You're my hero, Freddy," right?
Yeah. And Steve asks for a kiss too, and in the original one, she kisses him on the cheek and then rushes off. That is something that they may have filmed. It's doubtful they did, but I'm certain that there was questions as to whether or not it was appropriate for her to kiss Steve at that point in time.
Right.
Because they were just developing it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So Doug Kramer and others got the comic book storylines prior to the date I just gave you, which was 6/4/75. Because I also have a memo from April 23rd, 1975, to Doug Kramer from Michael Peacock, in which he's talking about those comic scripts. And one of the things he said, point 4 is our villains need to be thought through more systematically than in the comics. I like the idea of Baroness Paula von Gunther, the Nazis' top agent, as Wonder Woman's arch enemy. She will need a sidekick, Fausta Grabels, presumably. We shall need some other villains, for instance, a gallery of fat capitalists ready to sell out to the Nazis, and surely an occasional scientist, corrupt or eccentric, with the latest poison gas formula, etc. should appear pretty regularly.
Wow. Ray's going to love that. Fat capitalists like Arthur Deal.
The golden lasso should be regularly stolen or lost, and I love the idea of her captors welding those bracelets together. What protection does her belt give her?
Ugh.
Parentheses. Presumably, she sleeps in it. Parentheses. So they were discussing that, but at that point in time, they had no idea what they wanted to do with the belt.
Wow.
Just that, as in the comics, if her bracelets were welded together, that she would be powerless, and which, you know, as we know later became, if you take your bracelets off, she becomes powerless.
Goes crazy, yeah.
And goes crazy. So, but that idea that the golden lasso should be regularly lost or stolen was something that they just wanted to do from the beginning.
That is absolutely astonishing, because we know that, well, number one, we know the belt was a TV concept.
Yep.
You know, and the belt is not something that's in the comics. So for them to be at this early stage trying to figure out what kind of things, what kind of accessories do what for her, I'm blown away by these artifacts of, here's a memo dreaming up what the belt might do.
Right.
And we now know that it gives her strength when she's not on Paradise Island. And oh, wow, where's the book? Where is your memoir? Where is the Secrets of the Wonder Woman TV show companion by Andy Mangels? We need that.
Thank you. I would love to do it. I've been trying for years to get a publisher interested in it. And I think at this point I'm about ready to just put it together and self-publish it. It needs to happen, and every time I talk to a publisher, they're like, no, we're just going to put out another Batman book. There is some behind-the-scenes stuff about ownership because of the ABC and CBS thing that comes up, and there's always behind-the-scenes drama whenever you deal with these licenses. But Batman was far more complicated with 3 different owners than Wonder Woman is.
Sure.
So it's just I think it's really a question of sexism and, oh, we don't think that'd sell.
Right.
And yet every time they put something Wonder Woman out, it always far outsells most of everything except for maybe the top Batman stuff.
Huh. Okay. What else you got?
Then I have, for instance, there's a script status report that I've got. This is when they assigned the script to Margaret Arman.
Right.
She was assigned the script on June 12th.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And it was still called Wonder Woman and the Baroness Meet Again. At that point, they had assigned all of those stories that were written up by the DC secretary directly related from the comics. They had assigned them to other writers. All but 2 of them were eventually canceled.
And this happened, you say this was happening the summer of 75?
Yeah.
That is fascinating, because a week after the pilot movie aired, ABC announced they had ordered 6 scripts to go into production. And it sounds like Kramer had them ready. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Yes, but the scripts that were ready were not necessarily the scripts that they ended up shooting.
Right.
The ones that they had ready in the summer of 75 were all thrown out except for 2 of them, that being the Baroness Von Gunther one and the Fausta one.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the 2 that they kept out of 5 or 6 that they had written. And then everything after that then became second run episodes that once they knew they were going to be moving forward, they decided to rewrite some of them. So my suspicion is that they probably said, okay, now we know it's going to be a semi-series. Now we know what our budget is. You know, let's up our budget. They probably got notes from the network.
Well, they certainly, I mean, once you see, not so much in Beauty on Parade, but once we get into Feminine with the jet, absolutely, they dumped more money into it. You could definitely see that.
Right. And there, Warner Brothers and other studios used to use something called Audience Studies, Inc., what we now know as test audiences. For the Wonder Woman pilot, for instance, they gauged how many of their fans that watched the pilot in their test audience also liked Batman. How many of them were $6 Million Man fans? How many were action-adventure fans? How many were males over this age or 35, how many were under, how many were teenagers, etc. And then they would ask things like, do you like Lynda Carter? Do you like Kathy Lee Crosby? Do you like Lyle Wagner? Those were paid very close attention to, because if enough of the audience said, oh, we don't like this actor, or we don't like this element, they would immediately take it out. The ASI scores, I'm sure, had something to do with the Baroness, because they had them for the pilot, and I'm sure they did them for the Baroness and Fausta. And so when they came back and did the rest of the episodes, I'm sure there were a lot of influences on that as to why they made some of the changes they did and threw out all the scripts that they had already written. Now, I do have some notes from Kramer's office about the Baroness episode.
Please.
And this is from the original plot before it had been broken down by Armin. Some of the questions he asks: the Army transports being sunk by German U-boats. Can we dramatize this well enough? Some stock, but how else? Stock being stock footage. Needs to be tied into the central story more. Possibly Steve is under suspicion for leaking secrets, and Wonder Woman goes to visit Marcia in prison. Careful here.
Wow.
Who by now we know is the Baroness.
Unbelievable.
Did that just blow your mind?
It was going to be Marcia.
Yes.
Oh, yes. My God. Mind blown, Andy. And this is what you alluded to in our podcast of the pilot when you said that Marcia she might have come back at one point.
Yes, that's exactly. You gotta save some of these surprises for later.
Mind blown completely again.
Another thing they said: locate the prison outside Washington, Maryland? ? Be specific. Here's an important one. Be careful Freddy is not placed in too much jeopardy. Network rules, early evening shows, etc. So there's a specific, There's specifically talking about this from how do we deal with the network and how do we deal with the censors.
Right.
And then when the U-boat base is discovered by Steve, be more inventive about his discovery method and let Steve do the bombing. Perhaps not via plane, but with explosives. He, aided by Wonder Woman, ? Places. So there was going to be a whole bombing sequence in there.
Wow. This is such great stuff.
That gives you kind of a clue as to where they originally had it and then where they were going to go with it. But then when they assigned it to Margaret Armin, it became the story that she wanted to tell. So
right, the spy being framed, all that focus on Steve.
Yep.
I love the idea. People are like, wow, you must know all this stuff. I don't want to know anything until I talk to Andy in the vault. It is so much more fun to learn this stuff as a diehard fan. You know that learning new stuff about stuff you've loved all your life is a certain particular kind of high. And
absolutely,
it's wonderful just to talk to you and to learn about this stuff and to go through your stash, go through your vault.
I have an interoffice memo also from...
I love interoffice memos.
Pat Richwood to Tom Kuhn. So they were people on the production team.
Right.
This is dated December 10th, 1975. It is an update as to where all the different scripts were at that point. And by then they were already writing The Last of the $2 Bills is one of the scripts they were writing.
Right.
And then there was
one of my faves.
Yeah. Then there was one called Jets Away by DC Fontana from Star Trek. That didn't go forward.
Oh man, Jets Away.
There was one called Winter Comes to Paradise Island. That didn't go forward. And there is a note on Fausta the Nazi Wonder Woman that says, by far the best story written with fun and style. But what's important to this, December 10th, 1975, from Margaret Armin's first draft script, 12/8/75, is Wonder Woman and the Baroness Marcia meet again.
Oh, that's so cool to hear.
Steve Trevor is accused of sabotage, having been framed by a Nazi spy ring consisting in part of the Baroness, now in prison, and a guard named Heinig. When the warden's imaginative son gets himself into danger, Wonder Woman saves him, leaving her magic lasso behind. The Baroness, through a secret passage, can leave the prison at will. She cops Wonder Woman's lasso and captures Wonder Woman. Steve is already in their hands, and there's a warrant for his arrest on a sabotage charge. Wonder Woman turns the table, saves the warden's kid, vindicates Steve's, and turns Marcia and Hennig over to the government.
Oh my gods.
So at that point, 12/8/75, December 8th and December 10th, 75, it was going to be Marcia. And then by February, when they were getting ready to film it, that's when they had changed it to Baroness Paula von Gunther.
I don't know, man. That is unbelievable.
So the only thing I can think that is probably why that didn't happen is that Stella Stevens may not have been available.
Such great history, Andy. Holy cow. Like, I don't know how I'm going to fit all this without making this podcast 3 hours. We had planned to go through, I had gone through the script with a fine-tooth comb, marked off every instance where it deviated. There's so much that we wanted to do, and we can't unless we're going to have a 3-hour podcast. I do, however, want to go through one of the biggest scenes, talk about mind blown, that was in one of the original scripts, but was not who knows if it was filmed. It didn't make the air. And I would like for you to read, let me set the scene up for our listeners. This is when Diana has left the interrogation at the prison. She's gone to save Tommy, who's about to fall off the ladder. And she saves him, and now she has to get back. The warden has come to take the Baroness out for her daily exercise, and they're like, where's Diana? He's like, I don't know, it's been 20 minutes. Warden's like, well, she shouldn't be running around a prison. And then I love it in the script that's not in the show. There's a line that Baroness says, I hope she's safe. Behind these prison walls, there's no telling what might happen to a defenseless girl, even an unattractive one.
Ouch.
That did not make it to air. Steve goes out to find her. Wonder Woman's coming back in to rejoin Steve. She sees him coming down the corridor, so she darts into a utility room. I would like you to read these scenes. Take it away, Andy.
So we're reading from, this is the revised script draft, 2/18/76, February 18th, 1976. Interior main prison building, section of corridor day. Wonder Woman hurries into the corridor from an intersecting hall and moves towards the opposite end, where the utility room door, which we saw earlier, is located. Suddenly, she hears footsteps approaching from another intersecting corridor just beyond the utility room. She races forward, darts through the door and out of sight just as Steve and the warden appear around the nearby corridor. They continue toward the utility room as, interior utility room same, Wonder Woman completes her entrance, moves farther into the room, and accidentally brushes against a large tin bucket on the floor near the door. It tips over noisily. Wonder Woman freezes apprehensively.
This is like Three's Company.
Right,
no, I'm sorry.
Right.
Finish.
Interior corridor utility room as Steve and the warden hold, reacting to the off-screen sound of the falling bucket. Steve knocks on the door and calls out, "Is someone there? Diana?" Then we have an omitted sequence. And then interior utility room. As the doorknob turns and the door starts opening, Wonder Woman glances around desperately, then grabs a towel from a nearby shelf. She spins quickly as the door swings completely open and Steve enters, the warden behind him. Both react as they see Diana Prince facing them, draped in a towel. Wider angle, Steve and the warden somewhat embarrassed by Diana's skimpy costume.
Oh.
Steve says, "Diana, what happened? Did somebody... have you been harmed?" Diana, anguished embarrassment. "Oh no, I just slipped and fell in the corridor on the way to get my notebook." Steve, "Fell? Are you sure you're not hurt?" Diana, "I'm fine, but my uniform was covered with dust. I don't know what to do, so I came in here to brush it off." The warden says, "You should have gone to the visitors' lounge." Diana says, I couldn't find it. Steve, gruffly, well, at least you're safe, but you should have reported back to me, dusty or not. You've been missing for half an hour. I'm sorry, Steve. I didn't realize it was that long. Steve keeps his eyes averted shyly. Better get dressed. It's against regulations for WAVE personnel to be out of uniform. Diana says, yes, sir. Steve and the warden exit, closing the door behind them.
Now...
It's absolutely insane scene that, as you said, Three's Company wasn't even around then.
Right.
But
it has this sort of slapstick Pink Panther type of... It just didn't fit.
Now, there's a couple of things interesting in that. One is that I think this would have been the first time we would have seen her change from Wonder Woman back to Diana.
Right.
My guess is that this was a scene that the network censors, before it was ever shot, just were like, no, that's just, no, that's not happening.
Well, Ray and I had to sort of running joke that somebody on the writing staff wanted to get Lynda Carter in a towel on film.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of like, oh, let's write this in there. And then it didn't work because, like you say, the censors. And then they were like, oh, let's try and get her in Fausta. And they probably wrote something in there and it didn't work. But they finally did it with Beauty on Parade when she comes out of the shower in a towel.
Yeah.
And Ray and I were joking, they found a way to get Lynda Carter in a towel.
Now,
but thank God it did not.
Right. That revised final draft, that was February 18th, 1976. When those scenes would have been shot, according to the shooting schedule, was going to be on March 11th. So between February 18th and March 11th, they took the scene out, because the shooting schedule shows that they did not shoot the scene.
Right.
They shot right up to the end of 79C, which was Diana hasn't been to the car yet. But they would have shot it on March 11th, and all those Fort Myer prison scenes were shot at Terminal Island.
What a wonderful artifact to have in your collection. I mean, what a wonderful piece of history. In this script, again dated 2/18/76, the very last scene, the way it plays on camera is, it's the tag. We come back after the final commercial, and Steve Trevor he's regaling everybody in his office about how Wonder Woman captured the Baroness, and that's the first line that we hear. In the script, the first line that's written is, and even without her magic belt, Wonder Woman captured the Baroness. Could this be, this blew my mind, number two, could this be a vestige of the earlier plot?
There is nothing about her magic belt in the plot for the story or in the scripts except for that sequence. So I would imagine that it was perhaps something that they had been discussing, and it might have slipped into the script or something, and then once they filmed, they were like, wait, no, we don't do anything with her magic belt, and just took it out.
It remains a mystery, which, I mean, I'm fine with that. It's a wonderful, as I said, it's a wonderful tiny little artifact in the script. We know that Fausta was intended to go first, but it didn't. Baroness was moved up in the airing schedule. But can you shed any light on why Fausta was pushed back? Its production number was ahead of Baroness's, right?
Let me take a look. Let's see. I do not have the shooting schedule on that. So Fausta. I don't have a production number on it. None of my scripts have a production number on that.
We know that these two, Baroness and Fausta, were shot back to back or simultaneously.
So despite the way they aired, Fausta the Nazi Wonder Woman was filmed on March 1st through 9th. And then Wonder Woman meets Baroness Von Gunther was filmed March 10th through the 18th. So they were filmed opposite from the way they aired.
Andy, I cannot tell you how much fun it has been coming down here into the bowels of Paradise Island.
Are you about to lock me up again?
Look, we've got berries and coconuts. You have to guard Doom's doorway. So But we do have to say goodbye. We will be hitting you up again. I'll be coming down with some snacks next month for Fausta, the Nazi Wonder Woman, and I hope you'll be ready for me.
Bring lasagna, please. That's a great snack.
Lasagna on the way. Okay, guys, close it up. Thank you, Andy. Close it up, guys. Hey, Murray, close it. There we go. We'll see you next month, Andy.
Bye.
You know, Ray, I don't know why we're bringing him snacks. He's got all kinds of cool stuff down there. It's very mystical, and I could have sworn there was some jacks on the floor, like as if he was playing them.
Paul, oh my God, I am so sorry.
What?
I
Wait, are you?
I slipped during Andy's segment, and all I had was a towel. I'm sorry. The pail falling over was very loud. I apologize for that. Get her in a towel, boys. The whole thing went wrong as soon as she knocked over a pail. Wonder Woman would never knock over a pail on accident.
Not in a million years. We will have more of Andy Mangels on our next podcast when we do Fausta. We're going to find out more about that script, and we're going to talk more with Andy. I love these little vaults. He's now locked away again as he mines for Femino. So, that's... Okay, that's it. That is Baroness. Do you have any final comments about Baroness? Or do you think we've covered it all?
I think I have covered everything that I wanted to say about Baroness Von Gunther.
Me too. We are done with Wonder Woman meets Baroness Von Gunther.
Woohoo!
And next is going to be...
Fausta. I can't wait to talk about Fausta.
Fausta. The Nazi Wonder Woman.
The Nazi Wonder Woman. I love that episode so much. Holds such a special place in my heart.
Visit our website, satintights.com. All our links are there, all our show notes. Ray, thank you so much. Bye!
Bye, Paul.
Hello again, Paul and Ray. This is your friend Kevin MacDonald. I've been a huge fan of Lynda Carter and the late Lyle Wagner's ever since I was born 47 years ago. My favorite memory is from the pilot that started it all, where Lynda and Stella Stevens as Wonder Woman and Marcia are fighting in the War Department, and the theme music is playing instrumentally along with the female singers shouting, "Wonder Woman!" And then when Lynda literally says, "They didn't teach you to fight fair," and then she punched Marcia, sending her through the double glass doors while Marcia is sitting in the chair. I really want to thank you guys all for this, and I'm looking forward to hearing more stuff on episodes of Wonder Woman. Thanks again, guys.
So, if you pay close attention to the scene where Wonder Woman rappels down the side of the building using her lasso and Freddy is holding onto her neck, that is actually the most obvious use of a male stuntman that they ever had on there. And Jeannie Epper, who's Wonder Woman's main stunt woman, has actually talked about the fact that they had a hairy-backed stuntman that they stuck into a Wonder Woman costume, and that's the scene that she's talking about. You can't really see his back hair because Freddy's in the way, but you can definitely see that he's got a very broad set of shoulders. They're super clearly keeping his face stuck into the corner so much, he's practically scraping the concrete with his nose.
Some of the music heard in this podcast is from the sensational La La Land Records 3-CD Wonder Woman TV soundtrack, produced by Neil S. Boak. Thanks again to our special guest, Andy Mangels. Check him out at andymangels.com. And watch the full 2-hour Television Academy interview with legend Jeannie Epper at interviews.televisionacademy.com. For Ray Caspio, I'm Paul K. Bisson. We'll see you next time when we meet Fausta, the Nazi Wonder Woman. Bye.